Everybody just stand, because then we'll do the pledge after the prayer. Yeah, let's do that. God, we just thank you for today. We look for days like this that we can just dream about planting and all those kind of things that are ahead. But we know, God, that there's still some things to come, and we just want to thank you for the blessings that we have right now. I pray that you'll be with this meeting tonight and all that's going on, the agenda. And God, I think about those that are out there on the street, the first responders that are protecting us, so we can have the freedom to be able to come here and have these public hearings. So be with each one of these commissioners as they serve this county. And we do this all in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, I'll call the March 3rd, 2025 meeting to order. First item on the agenda is roll call of members.
Commissioner Bakken.
Here.
Commissioner Schwab.
Here.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Here.
Commissioner Munson.
Here.
Chairman Bittner.
Here. Next is the approval of the agenda. I've had a request to move item 7, which is Bismarck Parks and Recs, Operation Director David Mayer, and then item 11, which is under Sheriff Lieben for the Burleigh East renovation bid proposal up. So I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda with those changes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. I guess I could have said where we're going to put that. We'll put it right behind the consent agenda, right ahead of public hearing. Consideration of the December 16th, 2024 meeting minutes and February 19th, 2025 meeting minutes and bills. Commissioners.
I had an opportunity to review the bills and pending clarification on one signature, move to approve.
For the bills only?
Bills, yeah.
Okay.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the bills pending signature as noted. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. With regards to consideration of the December 16th, 2024 meeting minutes and February 19th, 2025 meeting minutes, I guess I only had one question unless somebody else has a question. I was wondering, okay, Commissioner Schwab, go ahead.
In the 1, 2, 3, 4th bullet point on page 2.
Which meeting are you at? December?
Pardon me?
December minutes? December 16th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Page
The
2.
unmodified opinion of the 2023 annual audit from the State Auditor's Office was highlighted to show the commission that no funds in Burleigh County were mishandled or misplaced. When was this audit? Does anybody remember?
Would have been 23 audit we received
In 2024.
No,
We're usually
no, it was a 2023 audit.
It'd be the 2023.
That was last year, wasn't it?
correct.
Well, I think that's incorrect because
Okay.
there was, I believe, 3.7 million not accounted for.
Okay.
That was sitting over at the State Bank.
Yeah.
Now, I guess you could approve that, but I don't think it's right until we check into that.
Okay.
Because he's saying nothing here, and I'm saying, I think maybe there's something there, 3.7 million,
Okay.
that wasn't in that audit.
Steve, can you speak in your mic, please?
Oh, sorry. the auditor is saying that there was no money misplaced or mishandled. And I think there was money, 3.7 million, in an account that wasn't accounted for at that time. And if it would have been, instead of raising the mills, 7.5 mills, I believe we raised it, we'd only had to go 1 mill. And that's the point.
Okay, I think we could rely on the finance department to look into that, and we'll ask the auditor to do as well.
Okay. So I won't vote to approve the minutes.
Okay. Commissioners, any other comments on that?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the February 5th, is it? February 19th minutes.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the February 19th meeting minutes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcock.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries.
Chairman? I would
Commissioner
move
Bakken.
to table the December 16th minutes until we get clarification on that.
Second.
A motion and a second to table the December 16th meeting minutes. And I guess I'd like a little further clarification, and that we give the auditor an opportunity to do that. In the second bullet point, where the auditor is explaining the investment yields versus budgeted yields and whatnot, it comes to a calculated loss in 2023 amounted to 0.0088%, and the loss of 2024 first quarter an amount of 0.0018%. And I would like to see the math that got to that. It seems like such a statistically insignificant number that I don't understand, and by conversations with others, we don't understand what the math would, how the math would lead to that. So I'd like clarification on that. Okay. In addition. Call the roll. Or did we?
Table. To table.
It's a motion to table. Yeah.
Motion to table, yep.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcock.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Next thing is consent agenda. Abatements, second access permit, special use permits, updated memorandum of understanding between Burleigh County and the University of Mary. Anybody want to pull anything off the consent agenda for discussion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcock.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Next would be item 7, moving ahead of item 6. Bismarck Parks and Recreation Operation Director David Mayer, South Washington Street Trail Companion Agreement. Welcome, David.
Chairman Bittner and Commissioners, good evening. As discussed at our last meeting, I was planning to come to you with the companion agreement, and that is in your packet. At that time, I wasn't aware that the county had already signed the agreement with the North Dakota DOT for the trail project, so you already have that agreement signed and agreed to between the DOT and Burleigh County, and that is Exhibit A in the attachment. And the first 2 pages would be the companion agreement, which is basically, as we call it, short term, is kind of a pass-through agreement, putting Bismarck Parks and Rec as financially responsible for the construction of the trail and not Burleigh County. So that's with our recommendation would be to the board to approve it unless there's any questions.
Okay, Commissioners, any questions?
I would move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Woodcock.
only the U.S. government and North Dakota DOT and whoever, we got 15 pages for this agreement. 15 pages. Ridiculous. I'm going to vote no. 15 pages.
Thank you.
Wow.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Woodcock.
No.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Objection noted. Thank you, Dave.
You just created more paperwork
Next.
by voting no.
No, no, no. No, no, look at that pile.
Next will be item 11 under Sheriff Lieben, Burleigh East renovation bid proposal. Welcome, Kelly.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm going to keep my part short. I've got Jeff Ubel with Ubel Design, our architect. We're basically at the point we're ready to go out for bids on the project. I'll turn it over to Jeff. The state's attorney has approved the advertising, so I'll bring him up. If you have any questions for him or myself, we can get them answered.
Okay. For the purpose of this discussion, I'm going to abstain from the discussion just in case my company would bid on that project. I'm going to turn this item over to Vice Chair Bakken.
Thank you. Jeff?
Good evening, Chair Bittner, Vice Chair Bakken. As the Sheriff said, the project is, design is complete. The project is ready to be bid. Tonight, all we're seeking is authorization to seek bids on the project. Per usual, once the bids are received, we'll come back to present those bids to the commission at that time. If you have any specific questions on the project, I would be happy to answer those at this time.
Any questions for Mr. Ubel? Commissioner Woodcock?
Do we have a engineer's estimate?
The estimate is getting completed over the next day or two.
Okay.
So it's pretty close. But I will say, Commissioner Woodcox, that we do, knowing that funding is sensitive on this project, we have built into the project a series of alternates that'll give the commission some flexibility
Thank you.
down the road.
Any other questions? Anything else to add?
Nothing for me.
Thank you.
To approve?
Kelly, did you have any other, anything else to add? Okay, thank you. Wishes of the commission?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and second, further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Chairman, Commissioner Schwab.
No.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Motion carried. Commissioner Bittner, back to you.
Okay, we're just gonna play like ping pong here. Okay, thank you. Then the next item on the agenda is public hearing regarding plan on redesignating elective office of Burleigh County Auditor Treasurer to a point of office. That is one of my portfolios, and as such, because I'm the portfolio holder, I'm going to turn the public hearing over to Vice Chair Bakken.
All right, thank you. So before we get into the public hearing on this, and thank you for everybody who's here. We do have multiple meetings sled up so that those that do wish to speak will have an opportunity. We've got some housekeeping on the online survey we'll get to a little bit later. But I did want to run through, as per the Century Code, just so it's on the record, the duties of the county auditor and the duties of the county treasurer. In our case, of course, they're combined duties. So Century Code 11-13-01, the county auditor shall qualify and enter upon the discharge of the duties of office on the 1st of April next succeeding the auditor's election. The duties of the county auditor, which is subsection 02. County auditor shall, 1, act as a clerk of the board of the county commissioners and keep an accurate record of the official proceedings of the board. 2, prepare a financial statement of the county annually unless otherwise ordered by the board of county commissioners. 3, upon receipt of any document, bond, or other paper required to be filled in the auditor's office, number and index the same and make the proper entries in the reception book. 4, carefully preserve all documents, books, records, maps, and other papers required to be deposited or kept in the auditor's office. 5, have recorded in the office of the recorder all bonds not issued by the state bonding fund that are required to be deposited in the auditor's office. 6, perform and transact all county business without extra compensation. 7, keep all books required to be kept by the Board of County Commissioners. 8, file and preserve in the auditor's office all accounts, vouchers, and other papers pertaining to the settlement of any and all accounts to which the county is a party, and copies of such papers certified under the hand and seal of the auditor shall be admitted as evidence in all courts in this state. 9, perform all acts required of the auditor relative to the making out and delivering of notices of general and special elections, making abstracts of and canvassing the votes cast at an election, issuing certificates of election, and forwarding the abstract of votes cast to the Secretary of State. 10, on or before August 1st of each odd-numbered year, report to the Insurance Commissioner the sound depreciated value of each county building or risk and the contents therein. 11, on going out of office, deliver to the successor in office all monies, books, records, documents, maps, papers, vouchers, and other property in the auditor's hands belonging to the county. And in the case of the death of the auditor's personal representatives shall deliver the same to the auditor's successor. 12, do and perform all acts not enumerated in this section which the auditor is required to do by law. Section 11-13-02, subsection 1, duties of the county official in rendering services to private individual, firms, or corporation, fees to be charged, disposition of fees, records to be kept. Any county official is not required to compile statistical information for private individuals, firms, or corporations other than that required of the county auditor by section 11-13-15. A county official may compile statistical information for private individuals, firms, or corporations upon payment of a suitable charge which must be commensurate with costs to the county of providing the services. If the service takes more than an hour to provide, the Board of County Commissioners shall determine the fee, which may not exceed the sum of $25 per hour, excluding the initial hour for time consumed compiling the statistical information. The county official shall remit the fees each month to the county treasurer for credit to the county general fund. The county official shall keep a complete record of fees collected under this section. Section 11-13-03, Auditor's Reception Book. 11-13-04, Auditor is Chief Financial Officer of county to keep account with treasurer. The county auditor shall be the chief financial officer of the county and shall keep complete and detailed records of all financial transactions of the county, charging the treasurer with the amount of all property taxes assessed and levied by the state and by any taxing subdivision, together with all interest, penalties, and other costs turned over to the auditor by the auditor's predecessor. In determining the treasurer's responsibility for collections, the county auditor shall credit the treasurer with all tax payments, cash discounts allowed, abatements, the amount of uncollected taxes delivered to the treasurer's successor in office, or other credits as provided by the law. The county auditor shall charge the treasurer with all monies collected by the treasurer or received by the treasurer in the treasurer's official capacity, and shall credit the treasurer with all payments by warrant or as otherwise provided by law, and with all monies delivered to the treasurer's successor in office. 11-13-05 deals with verification of cash. 11-13-06, auditor to issue warrants to taxing districts. Upon application of the treasurer of any local taxing district, the county auditor shall give the treasurer an order on the county treasurer for the amount due such local taxing district, and shall charge the treasurer with the amount of such order, and at the same time shall notify the clerk of each local taxing district of the issuance of such order. But the county auditor shall not issue an order as in this section provided until the bond of the person applying for such order shall have been filed as required by law. 11-13-07, county auditor to keep tax deed record. The county auditor shall keep a record to be known as the tax deed record, in which the auditor shall enter a description of the land foreclosed for unsatisfied tax lien, the date when the notice of foreclosure of tax lien was issued, the date and description of the return of service of such notice, and the date when the tax deed is issued. 11-13-08, deals with certified copy of tax deed record, prima facie evidence. The certified copy of the auditor's tax deed record or any part thereof given under the hand and seal of the county auditor shall be prima facie evidence in the courts of this state of the matters and things therein contained. 11-13-09, auditor to furnish copies of proceedings of Board of County Commissioners to newspaper. 11-13-10, auditor to certify abstracts, fees. 11-13-11, auditor prepare plats of school districts record. The county auditor shall prepare a record of plats showing the boundaries and the names or numbers of the various school districts in the county. Such record shall remain on file in the auditor's office. When the boundaries of a school district are changed or when a new school district is organized, the county auditor shall make a record of the same. 11-13-12, auditor's certificate of taxes and special assessments on deeds, contracts for deed, plats, replats, and patents. 1, whenever a deed, contract, or deed or patent is presented to the county auditor for transfer, the auditor shall ascertain from the books and records in the auditor's office and in the office of the county treasurer whether there are delinquent taxes, special assessments, or an unsatisfied lien created under section 57-02-08 subsection 3 against the land described in the instrument, or whether the land has been sold for taxes. Subsection A, if there are delinquent taxes, special assessments, or an unsatisfied lien created under section 57-02-08.3 against lands described in the instrument, the auditor shall certify the same. When the receipt of the county treasurer is produced for the delinquent and current taxes or special assessments, the auditor shall enter taxes and special assessments paid and transfer accepted. B, if the land described has been sold for taxes to a purchaser other than the county, the auditor shall enter taxes paid by sale of the land described within and transfer accepted. C, if the instrument presented is entitled to record without regard to taxes, the auditor shall enter transfer accepted. D, acceptances required under the subsection. This must be accompanied by the auditor's signature. 2, whenever a deed, contract, or deed or patent is presented to the county auditor for transfer, the auditor shall ascertain from the books and records in the auditor's office whether there are current taxes, current special assessments, or an unsatisfied lien created under section 57-02-08.3 against the land described in the instrument. If there are current taxes, current special assessments, or an unsatisfied lien created under section 57-02-08.3 against the land described in the instrument, the auditor shall place a statement on the instrument showing the amount of any current taxes, current special assessments, or unsatisfied lien created under section 57-02-08.3. When the receipt of the county treasurer is produced showing payment of delinquent and current taxes and special assessments and satisfaction of all liens created under section 57-02-08.3, if any, the auditor shall enter taxes.
Excuse me, Commissioner Bakken, if we can get on with the public hearing and stop wasting our time.
We are going to get on with the public hearing. This is just going into the record. This will be the first and only time at any of these meetings.
Then submit it into the record. You don't need to read it out loud.
Nope, I want this on the record for those watching at home.
We got a second over there. That's a county resident. You have a lot of people out here that don't agree with
That's
you.
fine. We're going to finish this.
I have signed in on the public hearing, so you can
Great.
you can
So
you
you
can
can
stop.
stand there
You
and
can
wait
enter it
until we're finished with
into
this.
you can enter it into the
Nope,
meeting
this is
record.
this is going to be on the record on.
Or you have such a denigration of your constituents that you're going to waste our time.
This is not
How
wasting
many
your
how
time.
many people would like to continue?
Continue, no, I want to hear I want it on the record.
This is
It's
as
on
per
the-
the Century
I
I
Code.
want it on the record.
How many have
Go
read
back
the
and
Century Code?
I want it on the record.
Yes.
Okay.
This will be on the record. A, current special assessment means special assessments that have been certified to the county auditor for collection but are not yet delinquent and have become due on the first day of January under sections 57-20-01. B, current taxes means real estate taxes as shown on the most recent tax list prepared by the county auditor, which are not yet delinquent and have become due on the first day of January under section 57-20-01. 3, whenever a plat, replat, auditor's lot, or any instrument that changes the current property description, including condominium ownership, established under chapter 47-04.1, is presented to the county auditor for transfer, the auditor shall ascertain from the books and records in the auditor's office and in the office of the county treasurer whether there are current or delinquent taxes, special assessments, or an unsatisfied lien created under section 57-02-08.3. And after February 1st of each year, the tax estimate for that year against the land described in the instrument, or whether the land has been sold for taxes. If there are current taxes, delinquent special assessments, installments of special assessments, and unsatisfied lien created under Section 57-02-08.3 or tax estimates against lands described in the instrument, the auditor shall certify the same. 11-13-13, auditor's record of transfer of title to real property. 11-13-4, auditor's certificate on conveyances to the state of North Dakota recording conveyance. Whenever any sheriff's deed or other conveyance of real property acquired by the state of North Dakota doing business as the Bank of North Dakota or any state agency for which the Bank of North Dakota acts as agent is offered for recording, the county auditor shall enter such transfer, and the recorder shall record the same without regard to the payment of any taxes due thereon. Section 11-13-12, if not applicable thereto. In such case, the county auditor shall enter on the sheriff's deed or other conveyance other than the county auditor's official signature the words transfer accepted, and the recorder then shall receive the record the same. 11-13-15, county auditor to furnish tax information to mortgagee of lands in county. 11-13-16, when county auditor may call special election whenever the Board of County Commissioners fails or refuses to call a special election required by any law of this state, the county auditor may provide for and call such election upon the petition of a majority of the qualified electors of the county as determined by the poll list of the last preceding general election. 11-13-17 refers to destruction of county records. 11-13-18, reporting name of a blind person for which exemption is claimed. County Treasurer, 11-14-01, treasurer eligible to 2 terms only. 11-14-02, when county treasurer to qualify and take office. 11-14-03 refers to additional bond which may be required of treasurer whenever the county treasurer has furnished a bond by personal sureties or by a surety company. The Board of County Commissioners may require the treasurer to give an additional bond or additional sureties if, in the opinion of a majority of the commissioners, the existing security shall have become insufficient. 11-14-04, failure to give additional bond. 11-14-05, county treasurer to certify abstracts and fees. 11-14-06, county treasurer to receive and pay out county money. The county treasurer shall receive all monies belonging to the county from whatever source they may be derived, and all other monies which by law are directed to be paid to the treasurer. The treasurer shall pay out monies belonging to the county only on a properly drawn county warrant or in any other manner provided by law. 11-14-07, treasurer to keep record of cash. 11-14-08, duties of the county treasurer for the annual settlement. The county treasurer shall keep a just and true account of the receipts and expenditures of all tax monies which shall come into the treasurer's hands by virtue of the treasurer's office in books or records to be kept by the treasurer for that purpose. Such books or records shall be open at all times for inspection by the Board of County Commissioners or any member thereof, by all county and state officers, and by any taxpayer or taxpayer's legal representative. On the 10th day of November of each year, the county treasurer shall make an annual settlement or accounting for the collection of current taxes, and for the purposes of the treasurer shall exhibit to the auditor the treasurer's books, monies, accounts, and all vouchers relating to the same to be audited or verified. County treasurer shall be charged with the amount of the original tax list, the additional taxes assessed, and penalties and interest collected to date of settlement, and shall be credited with the amount of cash collected, abatements, erroneous assessments, canceled taxes, discounts, and a total of delinquent taxes outstanding. County treasurer, at that time of the settlement, shall furnish the county auditor with a list of delinquent real estate taxes, taxes outstanding, and a list of delinquent personal property taxes outstanding in sufficient detail to permit the auditor to complete the auditor's records. 11-1409 refers to treasurer's receipts for money received and a copy of deposited with the auditor. 11-14-10, daily report to auditor, distribution of funds. The county treasurer shall prepare a daily statement of all receipts and disbursements and shall transmit a copy of the same to the county auditor, together with all warrants and other vouchers paid and duplicate copies of all receipts. The treasurer shall make the distribution on or before the 10th working day of each calendar month month to the several county funds and taxing subdivisions of all taxes received and of all funds that are required by law to be distributed. 11-14-11, report to township clerks. 11-14-12 refers to statement to township clerk of amount paid to township treasurer. 11-14-13, treasurer's accounts with school districts and disbursements. 11-14-14, reports of disbursements of funds to school districts. 11-14-15, receipts and warrants to be delivered to school district business manager. 11-14-16 refers to when treasurer shall pay over the funds collected. The county treasurer shall pay over to the treasurer of the state and to any municipal corporation or organized township or to any body politic. On the order of the county auditor, all monies received by the treasurer arising from taxes levied and collected belonging to the state or to such municipal corporation or organized township or school district or are on or before the 10th working day of each calendar month, provided, however, that foundation program allocation shall be made within several days of the receipt, excluding weekends and holidays. If any treasurer willfully or negligently shall fail to settle with the state treasurer at the time and in the manner prescribed by law, the county treasurer shall forfeit to the use of the state the sum of $500, such sum to be recovered from the treasurer or the treasurer's sureties on suit brought by the state treasurer in the name of the state. If the state treasurer fails to bring such suit, then any citizen of the state may bring the same. 11-14-17, treasurer not credited with interest paid unless warrant endorsed. 11-14-18, failure of treasurer to make settlement, auditor to start suit. 11-14-19, treasurer not to speculate in county warrants, and that refers to the penalties. A county treasurer shall not either directly or indirectly contract for or purchase any warrant or other evidence in indebtedness issued by the county of which the person is treasurer at any discount upon the sum due thereon. 11-14-20, loaning county funds refers to the penalty. 11-14-21, county treasurer's final settlement. When the county treasurer goes out of office, the treasurer shall make a full and complete settlement with the Board of County Commissioners and shall deliver up all books, papers, etc. to their successor. And that is the auditor and the treasurer's responsibility as per the Century Code. So when we get into this public hearing phase of this, the guidelines are you must be a Burleigh County resident. There is a sign-up sheet at the table before the podium. One topic for discussion, no discussion on previous home rule charters or other positions. It's laid out that there's a 5-minute time limit. I'm not a fan of time limits. Thank you for everybody who's come here to speak, and I appreciate that. As long as there's something new added to the conversation, please come up and speak your mind. If there is nothing new to be added, you have the opportunity on the sign-up sheet to concur with either a yay or a nay on our discussion. Speakers, please sign in at that and provide a comment on that sheet at the table. Try not to repeat what was already stated. If you have provided comments as a previous public hearing, allow others an opportunity to be respectful and courteous. Our public hearing dates, and we're going to discuss this, a possible change to that due to some concerns. But right now, the public hearing dates are this evening at the Burleigh County Commission meeting, March 17th at the Burleigh County Commission meeting, April 7th at the Burleigh County Commission meeting, and some dates to be determined, and times to be determined, both in Sterling and Wilton. Our online survey, which will be up after this, we'll have a discussion. Before we get into the public comment side, I did want to give an opportunity for county commissioners to speak their mind concerning the preliminary resolution and redesigning elective office for Burleigh County. I mean, this is kind of our Doge moment for Burleigh County as we're going through what county government might look like for the best efficiency for our residents and taxpayers. So if any commissioners would like to raise any concerns or give their opinion, I default to you first. So Commissioner Munson?
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair. Before I make some comments, I want to ask State's Attorney, lawyer, if this remains an elected position, after this process. Can Burleigh County set higher standards than what are listed in the Century Code, i.e. 18 and a Burleigh County resident? Can we set guidelines for someone who wants to run, that has to have an education in finance or has to have experience in a business, something like that?
No, you cannot.
So we have to live with 18 and a resident of Burleigh County.
Correct. That's
Okay.
what the statute
Okay.
requires.
Thank you, thank you. We have had this conversation for many months now, and so I've written down a few things that have me concerned as a commissioner. It should concern most of the residents that are here in Burleigh County. 10% of the auditor's responsibility is serving as the chief elections officer. After he was elected auditor, our auditor sues the state of North Dakota to change the way our elections are performed. Now, my concern is he was just elected to uphold the laws of North Dakota, yet he wants to sue the state of North Dakota for the way the elections are handled. I have a problem with that. For the election, the auditor is responsible to attend required election training sponsored by the state. He didn't do it. During the setup of the equipment, his department allowed a protocol to be not followed that was trained by the state in their election training. That error cost us $4,000 on a computer that was supposed to be standalone, not connected to the internet. Someone in his department, who he's responsible for, failed. During the election, and this has some concern for me, he was quoted telling volunteers to steer voters away from the electronic voting machines. Now, as the person responsible, you should make sure that we have a fair election. Beyond that, in my opinion, that's the way it should be, not steering them one way or the other. 40% of the auditor's responsibility is managing the auditor, treasurer, and tax equalization offices. All of the employees in the auditor's office have been turned over at least once since he was elected. To me, that's poor management of staff. We have 6 people trying to do the county's work. And when they're all new, within the last year and a half, year and 7 months, that concerns me. The other day, Mark made a claim that as auditor, he should have been the first person to be notified that there was a hostile workplace investigation taking place on him. Why would he be the first person to be notified if there was an investigation on him? There's some maturity that needs to happen there. 30% of the auditor's responsibility is to act as the chief financial officer. As of today, Burleigh County still does not have posted the 2025 final budget that was approved by this board 5 months ago. I don't know where it is, but it's not online for our residents to view. That's 30% of his job. Now, the county is required to have at least 25% of its budget in reserve. That's set by law. Our goal is to have no more than 75%. Part of our efforts to reduce the amount of taxes levied to the residents is to use interest income off of the money that we have set aside in our reserve funds. From a report that our finance director gave us, he had lost 65% of the potential income because he didn't invest the money. Not that he made bad choices, just that he didn't invest the money. If we already, and the statement that he has made a couple times, well, we already have our budgeted amount earned, so it's no big deal. Well, if we could have earned 65% more, what, roughly $1 million? That would be $1 million less that we would have to charge in taxes. He cost the Burleigh County residents $1 million by not investing. 10% of the auditor's time by his job description is coordinating with other agencies, acting as the county commissioner, acting as a clerk for the county commission, keeping records. One of the portfolios I have is the Missouri Valley Complex. He was recording those meetings, the first several, and then he ran out of time, and so the committee themselves, in order to have full transparency to our residents, are now recording them themselves and getting them on the website so that our residents can see what's happening in that meeting. That should be Mark's job, making sure that that stuff is out there. Now, he gets it to, as I understand, the clerk gets it to the auditor gets it to Mary, and we get it on the website. But that's stuff that he should be doing as the clerk, in my opinion. I have a lot of other for instances, but I'm not here to make this about Mark. I'm here to make this about the job. I really want this to be about the position, why I believe it should either be elected, and if it should be elected, what are the requirements that we have for him? If we can't create stronger guidelines for that, then it needs to be about making that position appointed, because it has to have more guidelines, it has to have more constraints, it has to have more guidance with it. And I'm not happy with the way it's happening now. I think our residents are being hurt by inaction, not things that he's done. I can't find fault for a lot of the things, but the inaction to me is the biggest thing. We need to have somebody that has more accounting background. We need to have somebody that has more maturity, more leadership qualities. And at this point, I don't find that in our current auditor.
Thank you, Commissioner Munson. Anyone else? Commissioner Schwab?
First of all, the voting. When the auditor was elected and started at the job, he actually, in my opinion, was suppressing the vote. How do you suppress a vote? You sue the state, and his argument was, well, if it isn't here by election day, we don't count it. The state, not the state, but the judge has come out in that ruling warning him of removal for office because he had made up his mind that this is how I was going to do it, and the hell with state law. So basically what the law is that if it's postmarked the day before the election, it'll count if it comes in before the canvass board meets 13 days after the election. And that law was specifically designed to help people in the military so they get their votes in and be counted. He wanted it struck. I have a big problem with that. I also have a big problem with two twins that one of them signed up for to vote, first time they voted, and the second one signed up, they just turned 18, and the second one is going into the military. He gets a letter from Mark, well, you've already voted. Well, the second twin didn't vote. An easy fix would have been to take care of that kid that is going to go, I believe, for 9 years on an aircraft carrier. That is suppressing the vote. So the end of it was, instead of taking care of that and being concerned about that, he told the poll workers should do it. I can't go along with that, and the final solution was the state did his job. And I get a letter as a commissioner, what the hell is going on down here? But the state needs to understand, I cannot go in there and make corrections in the auditor's office now. I can't go in and tell them to do one thing. So you got voter suppression, you got this, you got that. And then the other thing that I want to bring up is he complains a lot about a 12-page guide we have on investing. And Cass County only has 3 pages. My question is, how many years do you need to go through 12 pages? I mean, what's so hard about that? Basically, if you throw the fluff out, it's saying, get the best interest you can on the money. But every once in a while, he brings up Cass County and how good that county is. I want to remind him and everybody here, Cass County appoints their auditor. So he should be looking at that too. Just picking and choosing this stuff, I don't go for it. Either do your job, get the education. He's had that opportunity, and actually I voted for him, I supported him, and now from what I've seen, do we want this to happen again? No qualification. And I do not like the picking on the military and then going on the radio every Friday afternoon on county time and saying he's the only person sticking up for our right to vote. We're sticking up for your right to vote right now. He's not sticking up. All he's doing is putting the blame on the commission and other people. And I have a big problem with that because it's the other people, staff, etc., that bailed out this last election, and we'd have been a laugh of the state. I'm done.
Thank you, Commissioner Schwab. Anyone else? Commissioner Woodcox?
Just a quick comment. My concern is the auditor is going to remain, he's going to be there till the end of his term. What do we do in the future? I think Burleigh County deserves better.
Thank you, Commissioner Woodcox. Anyone else? Commissioner Bittner, you actually are the portfolio holder.
Yeah. I think I'll wait and give the citizens a chance.
Okay.
You know, there's all of this is relative to that as the portfolio.
Fair enough. All right. With that, once again, please sign in on the sheet next to the pillar, and I will open this public hearing. Please state your name and your address for the record.
Tim Mattson, I will not state my address, but I do live in.
Are you a Burleigh County resident?
I am.
Okay.
First off, I am probably the only person in the room that has ever been a voter assistance officer deployed overseas in a combat zone. And it is very clear what the rules are, that you're supposed to have your envelope postmarked at least by election day. Now, there are interpretations of that law, and we're not here to talk about voting, but there are interpretations of that law that people have taken advantage of, maybe not here, but in other places. And how do you change a law? I suppose I could ask the state's attorney, how do you change a law that's a bad law that needs to be changed? What's her name? Ms. Lawyer? How do you change a bad law? You either go through the state,
Yes.
right? Or what's the other option?
I was going to say, do you want me to answer what the law says, or is this his time to speak to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to go through your lawyers. You got to file a lawsuit. Okay, so to say that Mark had a description of that and how he was going to do it and how he understood that and wanted that clarified by the courts, because that's who's going to be hearing his case if he gets in trouble for not doing it, right? So to take that against him is weak. Okay? What was the point of reading through the entire description? Can you tell me the third duty of the treasurer's position without looking at it?
That's why I read it.
Did we learn anything? You know, it's posted on the website, both of those, right? So it's already an official county record, and you just wasted all our time reading through it. But if it was so important to read through it, why didn't you read everything? You were skipping. You're just reading the section titles, right? Don't mix your message. It does us a disservice, and it really irritates me. Mr. Munson, where are the percentages listed in those duty descriptions? How can you say 30% of his position is this and 40% is that?
His job description, which is also online.
I could look at that and I can
This
come
is
up,
public comment, so we're just.
I can look at that and
taking
I can come up with completely different percentages. I could say that there's one thing that's 98% of his job. And so for you to disagree with those is a little less than becoming. Now, you can have differences with any one of your commission members. You can have a disagreement with how Mark does something. You're all politicians. You work it out with him. You come to a common understanding. And the fact that you guys are sitting here trying to take away our voting rights to select who we have protecting our vote, that's despicable. You're politicians. You get together with him and you work it out. You figure out what's best for the citizens. You don't just, hey, I don't like Mark because he did this, right? You talk about poor management because there's been some personnel turnover. Maybe it was poor management on the person that was there before. Mark comes in, wants to do something the right way, and people that don't want to go with him leave. That's fine. There's a few complaints that have been lodged against him that are absolutely ridiculous. The Hack Act violation, I don't know if it came from any of you guys, right? But he's impossible for him to violate the Hatch Act because he doesn't have a county cell phone. He has his personal cell phone. What he does with that cell phone on his time, whether it's county time or personal time, is up to him. He's not using your resources to do whatever he does on his cell phone. Right? So if you guys know who that is, you really should take him out back and beat some sense into him. Right? One of your commissioners talked about his time, getting on the radio. That's a public outreach. That is communicating what is going on to them. He's not on a 9 to 5 schedule. He might work 80 hours a week. He might work 20 hours a week. You can't tell him, you can't do this on your personal time. You can't go and communicate to the citizens. That is not your place to do it. And you're right, you can't go and tell him to do anything unless you guys come up and decide to change his duties and responsibilities. That's how you handle this beef. If you're unsatisfied with something he's done, hey, Mark, we noticed you missed this. Can you do a better job? But you can't take one person's opinion, like the finance director, I believe it is, that says he has done a disservice to the citizens of Burleigh County and has lost money. My understanding is his proposals actually violated the policy that you guys have in place. So if your issue is he's got 12 pages of policy, well, you can make it easier for him and make that simpler. You don't have to get rid of him. Those are your rules. You take accountability for your own actions, your own responsibilities. Do I have to get up here and read a county commissioner's position description and your responsibilities? I don't think I should have to, and I don't think you should have done that either. Act like adults. Taking away our voting rights, our voice, is the last thing you should think doing just because you want a little more control over someone else that doesn't agree with you. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mattson.
Members of the committee, county commissioners, my name is Klaus Lemke. I'm a former county commissioner. I'm not speaking to the right or wrong. I'm speaking to you in the form of a history of what has gone on before. We've been through it. The previous counties was changing it from elected to appointed commissions. And I can tell you just a little bit of history, and I don't have a section -04 either. It's just my notes here. But originally we needed an accountant. We needed a county superintendent. We needed a register of deeds or county recorder, whatever you want to call it. We needed an auditor, we needed a treasurer, we needed a tax director. It was simply necessary for the balance. It was all written in hand, in longhand, and there was no computers or not enough computers there, and it was very, very necessary. But computerization changed all that. With the new stuff, it's simple things. You can now, every citizen can go online and check everything. The balance, the cash and balances are not there. That's why during my time on the commission, we changed some of the elected offices, and it went well. We had the same complaints hearing, you take away my vote. Well, I can tell you, we're not really taking your vote away. That's what we did at that time. Remember, what the treasurers and the auditor or whoever they are, they're prescribed by law. That's why Commissioner Bakken read that. That's what they are due by law, and that's prescribed. The only other thing that any elected officials or any appointed official will do is what you said as a policy, and you can certainly do that. They don't open up their office when they want to open up their office. They open up their office when the county says so. They name how many employees they have. Sure, they should come to you and justify that. I remember an incident with our superintendent of instructions many years ago. She had a 50% employee, and it's a weird story, but we figured out the employee didn't have enough work. So we told her to make it a 25% employee. And the educated superintendent says, how do I do that? Not capable of doing that. So there is a superintendent that got elected with what qualification? Maybe a superb teacher. And I think that's what some of the discussion is. I have another example. A register of deed needed more employees, and we checked it out, and the people that use the register of deeds, the closing companies, the abstractors, they said they were held up. And it turns out that the register of deeds himself did not work more than 1 or 2 hours a day. So we denied the additional person to be hired. And then, of course, things got worse. People in the business of abstracting stuff, they got held up even more. But that's why I think, because it was an elected position, there's not a thing the county could do. It was a lousy management way of doing business. The county had no power whatsoever. Sample was a tax director, went for lunch and didn't come back to work in the afternoon. It was, as long as it was elected, there's not a thing we could do about it. Now, at the same time, I like to just remind you that your auditor, treasurer, and stuff like that, they do everything what's prescribed by law. Or they do everything what's prescribed by your policy. You make those policies. And I am totally in favor of it. Now, I told you of some examples, and I didn't want to put anybody on the carpet here, but when I talk about some of the frustration that I had with elected officials, I've also had some good things today to say, and that's Bob Harvey, Pat Heinard, and Kelly Leben. They were outstanding. They were truly outstanding sheriffs. But they had to go to school. They have to go to school. Anybody here can run for sheriff, but they have to go to school in Devil's Lake. And that's what something that if you want to change, that you might have to change and go to the legislature and ask them to change this. But also Kevin Glott was a great auditor. And I mean, I've had my differences with him. We never shouted or anything, but we had our differences. But by golly, we did work that out. But he was a terrific auditor, and so did Deb Crocius with the Register of Deeds. Those were outstanding individuals. But there were quite a few in between that we had trouble with. I think today's management with today's computers and with the tools that you have nowadays, I think you should decide these things and move forward in a positive direction. I have nothing a statement to make against your current auditor. I just wanted to encourage you to make the tools available or take the tools to make this a better county. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak, please sign in at the clipboard.
I've already signed in. Can everybody hear me good? Okay, I got a little rebuttal on some of this.
State your name for the record, please.
Michael, I'm sorry, yeah, Chairman, or Steve, and the rest of them, the commissioners. Okay, address your property. Okay, Michael J. Walsh, okay, a long-term businessman, King Coin Laundry, Car and Dog Wash in Bismarck, okay. A few of you know me or met me once or twice. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to start out a little bit firsthand experience about that I had when when I came in. My property taxes that I pay is significant, much more than the average person. I won't go into detail there. Somebody might think I'm ultra wealthy or something, okay? So, which isn't accurate. But anyway, and by the way, with Klaus, what he said about schooling and all that, I just want to give you my background. I probably went through the School of Hard Knocks more than the average, more than a lot of them that have their PhDs, and I won't go into detail too much there. But, well, like we had to redo our boiler system, and the two biggest contractors, and went to an independent engineer, and the engineer told me, I don't want to rehash things too much, but I was all for going into litigation stuff, and I said, yeah, really, just it's black and white, it's just, there's total evidence. And the engineer told me, he said, no, you don't want to go that route, you want to work it out. That would turn into a circus, And basically, that's the type of, reading that stuff where nobody could absorb. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. But the other thing, firsthand with the election thing, I think it's kind of repulsive to me to use Doge and use this as an example of Doge, because now the states are taking on that, Florida and Louisiana and hopefully North Dakota too, where they improve things. I just want to say, when Vetter was temporarily the county auditor, I went in there to pay my taxes, and I asked Vetter, I said, can I talk to the election person just to kind of clarify, just so I understand things a little better, And I asked, gosh, I hate to say her name, but I think you know who, Erica, Erica White, and now she's up the state. And I now no malevolence against her or anything, but her response to me was very very much told the story a little bit by way of, I asked, did you guys use any of the PPP funds, or did you go all in with Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook stuff? And it didn't ask her specifically about the canceling. I'm sure she wasn't for that, but that was part of the package with that PPP stuff. And it was only a tiny percentage, from what I gathered, that was used for that. But anyway, so there was unanswered questions, and I don't know all the details of the type of questions he was asking, Mark Splonskowski, but they might have been legitimate, And as far as the out-of-state people that he had, Cletus Mitchell and stuff, there were some people that had proven themselves on the national stage, and they're 100% for Doge. So that's why. But anyway, so I saw firsthand her response there, and but there was unanswered questions on the. That was after the 2020 election. It wasn't like I was trying to overturn the election, or he was, or It was. So there's. I just want to make that point as kind of a rebuttal type of thing on in case somebody goes on the attack that I don't have any schooling at all. Why am I up here? And well, like I say, School of Hard Knocks. I could go into a lot of detail, but and then my dad was probably my biggest mentor. My folks and my mother was one-room schoolhouse teacher, and her dad's 6 brothers. You know, they all praised her like crazy. You know that. And my dad was a lifetime peace officer, and and I was around parole officers and growing up because of his relationship out there at the state penitentiary, the precursor of Rough Rider Industries. He was part of the twine plant out there. That was before we got into the laundromat. My brother mainly ran the laundromat because he was still on his job, but then shortly after, and then we had to take in a partner for. In fact, he was an immigrant, similar to Klaus over there. He barely could speak the language. My dad took him under his wing. Anyway, I want to get to what when I came here to talk, and I appreciate allowing me the time here. That sometimes they're real quick to take your First Amendment right. The October 8th City Commission, that would be an example. I don't want to get into that too much. We'll deal with that somewhere down the road somehow. Okay, so I hope I got things organized enough. I'll do the best I can. If the county auditor, I got my little notes here, but I don't think I'll have to read it that much. I pretty much know it by heart. If the county auditor is no longer elected, it means one less voter's say in the future of our county. Why? When we voters are properly informed, that person could provide that he's privy to, and that person who's elected, like Mark, he can provide the information to avoid potential corruption. I'm not saying that exists here so much in North Dakota, but sometimes an ounce of prevention, you know, and I think that's where he was motivated by that, and I believe that's where his heart was. And we're not buddy or anything. I just saw a bird's eye view of the news releases and some of this. Okay, so then he would be able to use his or her trusted judgment. But you know, if you take away is no longer elected, then trust is no longer part of in the hands of the. You know, it could even be more likely by election that you're putting a trust in somebody, you know, and that we should be allowed to, you know, put our trust in. And that's part of the voting process. So it's even more likely that, you know, things could be put in the hand of potentially unjust administrative state, which, in my humble opinion, it diminishes the Constitution part of our republic. Okay, I'm almost up. Okay. Yeah, the administrative state lessens where voters have less say. And that's my perspective on this, a little bird's eye view thing. It'd have less to say, and a constitutional republic, that's where they have more to say. And but anyway, I've got in front of me here, I've got Turning Point USA Constitution. I've been studying that before I came up, but I don't know if I'm qualified to go in, but they do. I think I recommend everybody to get a Turning Point, because they go into the definition of the terms, and so it's very succinct, but it's straightforward, and it doesn't get into a whole bunch of stuff where you get lost in the weeds too much. Okay, so but I want election because there's times, you know, where maybe there's just one person who can stand up to corruption, and there is a certain amount, a little bit. There's Well, I have firsthand experience. You know, one of the questions I'd ask the person who is going to be elected with the county commissioner and stuff, what level of how much are you in cahoots with, like certain NGOs and stuff that might be like an insurance parading around like they're legit and that they're handling things properly, you know. I guess I could name the name. I'm hoping they try to sue me in some ways, the NDRF, you know, NDIRF, North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund. That's what I mean about School of Hard Knocks. It couldn't have been more egregious, the experience I had with them. But I want elected people that I can go to, and I don't want them to totally ignore me. And if maybe there's only one out there out of the 6, in this case, it'd be 6 that I would have on the county level and stuff. And then there's another thing, like with city and stuff, you know, like at some point, like the House of Representatives, they have the ability, you know, the ability of the purse and stuff to hold people accountable a little bit when they aren't doing, you know, and you guys are a step above the city, and then of course the state, and then there's others, you know, of course the ultimate is our Lord and Savior. But okay, so anyway, I got a little tiny bit more here. Okay, I did. Okay, I already mentioned that. Yeah, they're very helpful definitions in this Constitution. That's what I wanted to point out. Oh, one more last thing is that for the benefit of the Dakota Access people that are watching now live, and also when they're looking at the recording, and also the people that are here, there's a fairly good crowd, that I just want to let them know that I have in the past allowed petitions, and I think that's one of the sequence that's required here for them to get it on the ballot again, and then have decided by the voters whether you guys would be allowed to do this. But I would certainly open up my place for that. I've done it before. I've even gathered petitions. I remember one time I was against expanding gambling to the point of I think Kelly Leben can kind of help me out there a little bit, that it can be a real problem. But I turned in those petitions to the adoption agency, and there was another outfit that gave me but they were motivated completely different than the adoption agency. Anyway, did the best I could here, and I hope you people listened. I hope that I made my points well enough.
Well, this is just the first of
Thank you.
many opportunities for
Unless
people
you
to
want
speak.
to, if you want to talk back with me, I'm very much willing to engage you.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Walsh.
Thank you.
Please sign in at the sign-up sheet and state your name for the record.
I signed in already. Commissioner Bittner,
Name for the
or
record,
Chair
please.
Bittner, Commissioners, Ryan Subart, lifetime resident of Burleigh County. Watched the Burleigh County meetings for the last couple of years. There's stuff I'm wrong on, but today I'm just going to bring common sense stuff up here, okay? Mr. Schwab, I appreciate what you said at the beginning of the meeting, that there was $3.7 million unaccounted for. Where's the qualifications for you 5 that are sitting up here? That's what I want to know. How didn't you know there was $3.7 million that was we didn't know it was there, okay? Mr. Woodcox, Mr. Munson, Mr. Schwab, okay? This meeting is for the voters, okay? You guys have already made up your mind, but we're passionate people. We want our vote. We want our vote to be heard. You guys talk about qualifications, okay? Mark, I feel sorry for him. What you guys are putting him through on trying to protect something that we haven't figured out yet, but we will figure it out. We always do. The qualifications that you guys mention in that stuff, someone brought it up earlier, the Hatch Act. That was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. That came from Julie, and I believe their commissioner on the board here. What a waste of time. What a waste of time. You guys are trying to prosecute this guy, telling him how bad he is and that stuff. Will you guys help me remember this, because I'm not too familiar with this, but in 2020 or 2022, didn't the voters vote Mr. Splonskowski into office? Correct? And wasn't it like 67%? Right? So now we have 5 commissioners here, and 3 of you have already told us what you're going to do. And here we are again as citizens, sitting here talking to politicians, and we're wasting our time because you guys have already decided what you're going to do. This is why citizens come up here, because we're trying to protect our right to vote. And you guys have already made your minds up because you don't like a certain way. You know what I suggest? I suggest at this meeting you let Mr. Splonskowski come up here and tell us his qualifications. And then I want each and every one of you to stand up here and tell us your qualifications, okay? There's some of you that have been on this board for 16 years, okay? And you just figured out within the last year what a mill was, because you didn't know what a mill was. Right? I'm going to leave it with this, okay? And here's the common sense thing. You guys say, I've watched many meetings, and you guys say, oh, well, we're not going to raise your taxes. Your property taxes aren't going to raise, okay? Then what happens? Then you guys come out and you say, well, it was the wind towers and it was the railroads. They gave us less money than we were going to get. Where's your qualifications to know that you guys weren't going to get that money? And here's the next common sense thing, okay, to all 5 of you. When you raise your budget, you have to tax more, okay? So you can make any excuses you want to, and you can tell people to look over here, but when you spend more money, you're going to charge us more property taxes. And you guys can explain it however you want to and that stuff. But you guys have already made up your mind, and what you guys did tonight I think is very disgraceful to the voters of Burleigh County, that you guys had to sit up here and bash him when we were the ones that elected him. And I don't even know Mark. I sat down with him for the first time because I wanted to get to the bottom of this. And that's why I think you guys should let Mark sit up here and tell the public right here, right now, what his qualifications are. Because I don't think they know that, because you guys want to hide it. And then each one of you need to come up here and tell us how you're qualified to run your portfolios. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schubert.
My name is Curtis Junt, Burleigh County resident, live northeast of the town of city of Bismarck for 19 years. Been resident of the city of Bismarck all but my stint at NDSU. So it's a lot of life I've spent in this city and this county. I want to ask honestly, every one of you here honestly, don't raise your hand just to give the answer that you want to give. I want to know how many of you have read Century Code, North Dakota Century Code, Chapter 11-14 and 13, before you heard it cited tonight. I want an honest raise of hands. 1, 2. Okay, thank you, by the way, for putting that on the record. When we got ready to vote in November, and Mark, I voted for you. So did my wife, okay? So let's just get that out here. I am really irritated what's gone on here is a major distraction and bad PR for what I think has been, is a pretty amazing county to live in when you look across North Dakota. We got ready to vote, and Michelle was asking, well, I don't know who is Mark. We saw Mark at the state convention. I've just known Mark casually. Okay? Everybody who meets Mark knows Mark comes across a very personable guy. Okay? So Michelle's, well, what's the duties of the auditor? I said, that's a really good question. I know that from being a business guy, and what we have up here, by the way, you can criticize them all you want, but we have 5 very qualified business people with decades of business experience who have been on board of directors and have had chief financial officers and accounting people and CPA working for them. Their qualifications were cited when they were running for the job. And by the way, I don't even consider the 5 of you politicians. I consider someone who runs for a job that's full-time, like Mark, like the PSC, like Hoven, like Kramer, like Fedorchak. Those are politicians. Those are full-time career jobs. These guys, we've been to a lot of meetings, watched online. I don't consider any of you, you're as good a politician as I am, and I would really suck at being a politician. And engineers make terrible politicians. Why? Because we call a spade a flip and shovel. Okay? So I read, here's Century Code 1114, 1113, and I scuttled down through it, and I'm like, and by the way, just to refresh it, I read through it again this last weekend because I needed to refresh myself. It's a hell of a lot of duties, no question. So, but what I can, it's coming from a business world, I consider the 5 of you a board of directors. And again, you don't have to answer this because I know the answer. The success of the 5 of you, is it possible without that office, auditor treasurer, being successful? The answer is no. I've been on board of directors before. My chief financial officer provides me information. If that information is not adequate and not good, I'm going to fail. We're going to fail, not only as a board of directors, but as a company. Now, I read chapter 1114, 1113, and I'm like, wow, it is a lot of duties. So, Mark, I don't think Mark, the auditor position, can succeed, like in any company, if the board of directors doesn't set expectations for them. So what we've got here is we've got the criticism coming on pretty heavy duty on you guys by a public that claims they voted for a guy that they don't even know what his duties are. Sorry, but it's the facts. So you're saying we want that right to vote for somebody that we have no clue what that person's duties are. These 5 guys here and us who attend the meetings know that the success of the 5 of you can only come with the success of that office. So what's happened here is a really tragic, bad PR, bad distraction to so many important issues. And I put myself in Mark's position, reading 1114, 1113. That's a lot of duties. Okay? But before I even really started paying that much attention to a lot of this, which was months ago now, we started paying a lot more attention to this. I was thinking, what is going on? We got this lawsuit filed. Then we got the election, what's a person called? Election manager quit. And then, coordinator quit. And then we got the deputy auditor quitting. And I'm like, it's just one bad PR thing in the news after another. Even if we never attended a meeting, I never watched online. I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? Now, if I had the portfolio, because it's the world I come from, I had a dad who was city engineer of Bismarck for 34 years. He was hard as nails. Every instructor I had, every job I've had, it's the world I come from. And guess what? If I were sitting in the portfolio shoes, I would have expectations. Because I don't want to fail as a commission. This is who the voters are relying on to protect us. We got the 1 cent county sales tax approved. That was orchestrated here. That's going to reduce our taxes. These guys can't succeed without the good advice from the attorney's office, the good advice from and a job proficiency from the auditor treasurer. No different than the employees, the county engineer, the finance director. One thing that I think needs to be considered, we need structural changes. If these structural changes don't make a difference, and if we can't change the way things are to prevent this ever happening again, one thing might be, it might be time to separate the treasurer, chapter 1113, from the 1114 chapter, Century Code chapter, auditor duties, to separate, bifurcate the two. Number one, maybe it's time. I'm not in favor of the treasurer being another elected position. I have the faith in the 5 guys and gals we elect here to be no different than the board of directors of companies I've been involved in and have worked for, to make the decisions to hire the right treasurer, just like you hire a finance director and a county engineer. So the second thing would be, if we keep this an elected position like so many people here want, oh, we got to keep it elected, you know, the people have to have a say. These same people want to have a say in something they have no clue what their say is about. To me, that doesn't make any sense. You know, if you're going to vote and you have no idea what you're voting for, I'm not so sure you're doing the rest of us a favor. So if we're going to keep it elected, there has to be a way that the county commission can hold that position accountable. And I don't think that an elected, no different than the state's attorney, no different than any elected position, that the success of this commission is predicated upon the success of their elected positions. There has to be a way for this commission to be able to hold them accountable. How many of you people actually are doing job appraisals for Mark and know how to rate him? He's doing, oh, you're doing good. Oh, you did average. Oh, you're doing poor. There's no citizens that have the ability to know on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis how to appraise any of these positions. You are the 5 we're relying on to know how to do that. So if we can't somehow have this commission hold this position accountable and get this position to stop playing politics, that's another thing that's really disgusting for me. The politics of this position, it has to stop. The playing politics here, even though it's elected. And that position has to say, I'm accountable to this commission, even though the people elected me. You know, so there's structural changes that have to come. And this commission needs to be able to, if it's an elected position, be able to say, look, the person we have in there right now is failing miserably at their job. We have to be able to do something about it. And if that can't happen, then I want to see this position go the way of Fargo, Grand Forks, and Minot. 3 of the 4 biggest cities in North Dakota appoint their auditor. So I only want to see it stay elected if we can somehow have this commission hold them accountable to stop the bullshit that's been going on for far too long and the distraction when we have so many more important things to deal with. And that's my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Jott. This is a public hearing concerning the preliminary resolution on redesignating an elected office of Burleigh County Auditor Treasurer to an appointed one.
John Frazee, resident of Bismarck. I believe the Auditor Treasurer position should remain elected because there's no better way to hold all elected officials accountable than having them on the ballot every 4 years and being accountable to the great people of Burleigh County. The balance of powers is stronger when everybody's elected, both the commission and the Auditor Treasurer. I don't think we need to take away an important vote from the citizens, and I want to keep my right to vote on the position. We obviously don't get tons of votes as citizens, just a short couple-page ballot, because we elect people to represent us, and I'm totally fine with that as long as we elected the people to begin with. If someone any of us don't like is elected and they struggle and are bad, that's totally on us, and we can accept that. But it's important that we elected the people to begin with. Our country is founded on the people having the power to elect of people with power. I think we need to keep that. Obviously, there's been some tension between the commission and the auditor or treasurer the last couple of years, and I hope all parties can communicate and work together to move forward. My primary concern is how this will be in the long run, like what the implications are, because I believe the ramifications of the decision will last far longer than the current composition of the commission and the auditor treasurer. And I think the best thing to do is keep the power with the people, because while there is conflict now, all these seats are going to change over time, and there will be problems, and it's extremely dangerous down the road if we don't keep that right with the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frazee. Anyone wishing to speak, please sign in at the desk by the pillar. Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Dustin Geverlow. I am a Burleigh County resident. I was a member of the 2022 and 2024 Home Rule Charter Commission here. And prior to that, in 2020, I did some campaign work against the idea of converting the auditor to appointed. That did fail. And I know that there was a comment about not wanting to look back, but I think from a procedural standpoint and making sure that this stays on track, we do have to talk about what has happened in the past. In 2022, the Home Rule Charter Commission was commissioned to create provisions in the Home Rule Charter in order to allow you, the commission, to enact ordinances outside of zoning. And I was going to play some audio from that meeting. I'll hold off on that unless you request it. But in that discussion, when the provisions about appointing were discussed, there was an understanding amongst, I believe, a majority of that Home Rule Charter Commission that in order to make any changes, there would be another public vote, not on the auditor position itself, but on the idea of converting it. I really think that we are at a point, and as somebody who has opposed this concept in the past, I've come around to seeing the weaknesses in the situation, which is that somebody can get elected without being qualified for the job. Now, I've been very critical of Mark, and I don't want to make it about him because I think that one of the mistakes that the commission has made is taking this long to start discussing these things. The public thinks that nothing has happened in the background. I know because I've talked to people that there's been a lot of background discussion, and the public doesn't understand that. The public doesn't understand the history of the stack of papers that Commissioner Bittner has, or what the staff themselves have been talking about. And as a result, they don't have context. And unless the public has context as to why you're going down this road, and Commissioner Munson and Schwab, you started down that process, and I know that there's a lot more on those lists. Without the public understanding why you're going down this, you're going to get more and more of this. You know, heckling in a public meeting is not a good way to support the side that you want to support. That's just my advice, having done grassroots activism for 18 years now. The real thing right now is getting down to what is the process to get to where you want. And I, at this point, tend to lean towards it should be converted, but it has to be done the right way. The public needs to understand why it needs to be done, and then they need to be involved in the process. And if you decide to go down the road of appointing, I would highly recommend that you find a way to put that to a vote yourselves and not expect the public to go out and collect 15,000 signatures to do it. If expect and have the public do that themselves, I think that none of this is going to work out well for anybody. And you're going to have an even more permanent problem than you do now. If you want to tackle this, I think either if there's a way to put this resolution onto the ballot in a special election before candidates themselves have to start collecting signatures next January, that would be the best. Because if the voters have a chance to discuss it and vote on it, then you know what you can and can't do. And in that period in between, you can make your case as to why this needs to be done. I believe Commissioner Munson has stated in the past that putting that resolution directly on the ballot for a special election may not be possible. That should be discussed. If not, maybe we need to have another Home Rule Charter Commission to look at this specifically, because that might be a short-circuit way to do that. If you can't have a special election for the resolution, you certainly could if you had a Home Rule Charter change, especially this significant. It's going to cost money to do that, but I think that you have to do it the right way. And if the public doesn't understand why you're doing it and they're not involved in the change, it's not going to go the way you want it to go. It's just, and it's going to backfire, and you're going to have more problems down the road. Maybe not in that office, but maybe at the commission table. I think that is really the key here, is making sure that this process is open, transparent. People need to understand why this is happening. As a Home Rule Charter Commission member in 22, I believe that we were told that this would be decided once again by the public before it would be changed. I do not believe that we gave the commission that power to do it on your own at that point. Maybe we did and didn't know it. I asked one question, maybe I should have asked 3 more. But as somebody who tries to keep as much attention and an eye on all these things, I am concerned that if I can miss that sort of thing, then nobody else knew it was there. We were told that there was a formality that it had to be in the Home Rule Charter if we had a Home Rule Charter. And so at this point, I think that the public is confused as to why it was not highlighted more in 22, and that did carry over to the 24 election. So people did vote on it, but they didn't necessarily know it was there or what it meant. And so we have to fix this. And I was a part of it, and so I feel like I'm partially responsible to helping fix this. With that, I would stand for any questions that you might have.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Wilcox.
Thank you for comments. I'm concerned long-term about the Office of the Auditor and the health and wealth of the county and the taxpayers in particular. You're well informed. Do you agree with the minimum standards that the auditor already has? According to the state constitution, do you think that's all we need?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Woodcox, no.
And when you explain that?
I think I've paid as much attention to local and state government as probably anybody in the last 2 decades, and I wouldn't want that job whether you appointed me or I ran. I wouldn't even consider running for that job because that list of duties is way too long.
Overwhelming. Yeah.
It's overwhelming, and that doesn't even get into the prior issues of the turnover over the last 8 years in both the auditor's office, the finance department's office, and other offices. There's been no continuity. There's been turnover here. I ran in 22. Didn't do so well, but without continuity, you're going to lose track. And I think that's what has happened. I think that's how the money got lost. It didn't get lost. Whoever was keeping track of it forgot that they put it off to the side on this off-book thing.
And whose responsibility is that?
2 auditors ago, I guess.
Right.
And so these problems were inherited. They were inherited by someone who probably didn't do the prep work to be able to do the job at least to the point where you're satisfied with them. And I'm trying to be fair to Mark because I don't think this is all his fault at all. I think it might be a 60-40 split. I think that where his issues come in is attitude, and as Commissioner Munson was pointing out, immediately suing the people that he has to work with as soon as he got into the job. I think that was his fatal original sin in all of this, was going after the people that he has to rely on in order to do the job. Because why would you even want to deal with them if you're suing them? I mean, it'd be embarrassing. If I was suing somebody, I wouldn't want to work with them either. So I think that in a lot of ways, the discussion needs to be talking about restructuring. We need to be talking about administrator, because you can't expect the auditor now in a modern time to be the administrator at the same time. Kevin Glott was able to make it work. He knew the county inside and out, but we're beyond that. And sometimes the more conservative thing to do is spend some money and hire new people and more people, so you know that you can get the job done, so the system doesn't collapse just because one person isn't doing what they should be doing.
Do you have a comment? Sure.
Dustin, there's a couple of people that said that, work together and try to iron this out. If the auditor, and we have tried, does not want to work with the commission, we can't go into the auditor's office and tell him what to do, period. We cannot tell him anything other than good job maybe or bad job. We do not have the authority, and I want to make that perfectly clear because it doesn't seem like it was, but hey, if the attitude is I can't work with the commission, I wonder if the auditor is supposed to be working with the commission as the commission has their meetings. I mean, whatever. But we cannot, I just want to make a point that we cannot go in. Absolutely, if we see the auditor in there playing games on his computer, we can't go in there and tell him to stop it. Period. Okay.
And Commissioner Schwab, I think that comes down to, that's the attitude issue. If that's going on, and I was hearing things back in April of last year that were concerning through the grapevine. I think that if you can't figure it out in the background, bring it out in public sooner rather than later is probably the best option. Even though North Dakota nice, we don't like to air dirty laundry. But I think that this whole situation is exposing that when you let an issue fester, it just gets worse. And then you've got 9 to 12 months of negativity behind the scenes before the public knows that there's a problem. The public didn't really know that there was a problem until the election director quit 2 weeks before the election. But there were issues. Tackling these things sooner rather than later before they become a blow-up so that the public can have some exposure to the situation in real time as they're developing. I think that's your only option when you don't have direction of an elected official. Your job in the checks and balances system is to let the public and the voters know what's going on when it's going on after you've decided that you can't do anything about it in the background. And so if this commission did anything wrong, it was waiting too long to discuss this publicly.
Well, and that's the purpose of these public hearings, and it's about the restructuring of what county government looks like. That's the bigger piece of this, is what that looks like for the best efficiency and best outcome for taxpayers. So, Mr. Galvin, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? This is a public hearing. Sign in at the podium. State your name for the record and whether or not you're a Burleigh County resident.
Yeah, my name is Greg Heilman. I'm a Bismarck resident. I'm not on a board of directors, but I am an internal auditor by trade. Just as a professional, I wanted to speak to give an industry perspective on why maintaining an auditor's independence is important. Changing the auditor position from elected to appointed by the commission is a direct threat to the Burleigh County Auditor's independence. In public accounting, there's 5 different threats to objectivity and independence, and one of these threats is the intimidation threat. So this can occur when the client or a related party maybe uses intimidation or leverage to influence the auditor into providing favorable results. Not saying that's happening, but when this does happen in practice, an auditor is only left with 2 options: to either exit the engagement altogether or try to find a way to mitigate influence so that you can still do your job. The current safeguard to this right now is that the auditor is selected by the voters. Another threat that may arise from appointing the auditor position is the familiarity threat. So this is a threat where the county commission could get into a pattern of simply, appointing individuals that they know they may have similar viewpoints with. An existing relationship or friendship between the auditor and the county commissioners could impair their judgment and independence. This threat is heightened when the people do not have the means to serve as a check to that power, such as through the power to remove the auditor. So for these reasons, I would urge you to keep the position elected. I think we would be doing the county a massive disservice by taking their vote away. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, sir.
You're a professional and very well informed. Do you think the minimum requirements for our elected auditor are adequate?
I would say they are if you can, show that you would have the experience or maybe the background up to that point.
But that's not our job, and we can't require them to have, right now we can't. I mean, when we're elected, we run on our past experiences, what we've done, whatever it might be. And they do the same thing. But in this particular case, I think the qualifications are not adequate at all. And that's what we're trying to work on. We're trying to get that to be a more accountable position. And to be only 18 and come out of high school and go into a job as an auditor and handling millions of dollars of your taxpayer dollars and handling all the elections and everything as an 18-year-old, that doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And I don't want to put you on the spot. Do you agree with that or disagree?
Well, I mean, I guess with all due respect, I think it cuts both ways. If it's going to be that way for the auditor, there has to be increased standards for, county commission or another elected position. So I think you can have it both ways. If you did have it where, requirements were enacted, I think you have to do it with county commission too. But ultimately, your responsibility is with the voters.
Certainly,
So,
absolutely.
and I think it's kind of good that we're doing things like this because this is engaging the public. And, if we want to have informed voters, this is how you do it. So.
Right. Now, we have our state's attorneys right here, and our sheriff is back here, and our, I don't know if our emergency manager, but they are all appointed. But when they're elected, I'm sorry. I don't want to get sidetracked. They're all elected. But when the state's attorney's elected, they have to have a minimum amount of, she's got to be a lawyer. If we elected a state's attorney that wasn't a lawyer, that doesn't make sense. Or a sheriff that didn't have qualifications, that wasn't a former police officer or whatever, went through the proper training. Would you want to go to a doctor that didn't have a doctorate degree? No, you wouldn't. So we're in a difficult position.
Sure. Well, and I guess just kind of one last comment. I would say, ultimately that's going to be your responsibility to contact your legislators then. So.
Well, that's a state law that we'd have to change. They're the state constitution.
Correct.
But we can change our county. The other counties have done that, and so that's what we're looking at. We're trying to be as fair as we can for the future of Burleigh County. Not with the auditor now. We can't do anything about that, and we want to look to the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, that's why I would advise against changing that structure because, again, you're introducing these threats now where the county commission can pick who they would want to audit the county. And there are some threats that come with that. So, the voters ultimately are going to serve as the ultimate check on the auditor. And I think we need to keep that responsibility.
I don't disagree with that at all. I disagree with the minimum standards, what I'm harping on. Thank you. Appreciate
your time, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Rao.
Howdy.
State your name for the record, and are you a resident of Burleigh County?
My name is Austin Langenfelder. I am a resident of Burleigh County. My family has been a resident of Burleigh County for well over 100 years. Now, I never done something like this. I'm not the most eloquent speaker, but I will do my best to do my part, because I always say if you don't say something, you can't say something. It seems the crux of this issue is a matter of qualification. At least that's what you've pointed to make the crux to be of this issue with Mr. Splonskowski. And when I hear stuff talking about qualifications, whether someone's qualified to do something or not do something, it really boils my blood. Because I'll state now, I have nothing greater than a high school education. At 14 years old, I became a tree feller. I was entrusted to not crush someone's $1 million house, and someone took me on. And they showed me the ropes, and I didn't crush someone's $1 million house. When I was 16, I was on board to be a mechanic. I didn't know the first thing about mechanics except for what I did on my motorcycle. But someone took me on, they showed me the ropes, and within 6 years I was running down, and I would say even less than 6 years, within 4 years I was already on my own, doing my own thing. After that, I even went to work for the city of Bismarck at the Bismarck Transit. Oh gosh, I don't even know how old I was. But anyways, I was young, I was the only one there, and when I came on, I didn't know anything about city buses. Someone showed me the ropes. Within a couple of years, the guy teaching me left, and I was left by myself to figure it out on my own, and I sure did. And they loved me having me there, and they hated to let me go. Those buses were also another example of multi-million-dollar equipment. After I left working on buses, I went to go work for the family business. It only took me a couple years to train me in. And after being trained in, I went from working on $1 million equipment to multi-million-dollar equipment. I don't have a college education. I don't have any formal training, but I had the gumption to get in and find the right answers. If I didn't have the right answers, I looked for the right answers. Now, throughout this meeting, it also seems like we have the conversation of, is this about voting rights? Is this about qualifications, or is it about Mark Splonskowski? And it seems like in the process of trying to divide the three, we end up running them right into each other. And we even started this meeting. I believe it was Commissioner Woodcock said we're not in the process of going after Mark or Mark and whatnot. And then we came down the line, and it seems like everyone had to say something about Mark. And it seems like this meeting needs to stay on task of whether it's the people's right to vote or not to vote. And I apologize if I'm stammering. Like I said, I'm just a hair nervous.
Actually, you're doing a great job.
Thank you. If you could just give me a second to collect my thoughts. The Doge comment, when it came in earlier, I had to chuckle at that a little bit because I've been following the Doge stuff very closely. And if you look at all the stuff that Doge has taken out, it seems where Doge is attacking the most is the appointed positions and not the elected ones. It seems like in our government where the bloat comes in, and all the bloat with the dollars and the money is all the appointed positions, and it seems like just the elected ones are just the frontmen for all that. If you look at our federal government, you can see where the bloat is hidden, where the bloat, we've got Doge to find that now. That was the real destruction of our government. It was not so much the elected officials, but it was the bloat of the appointed positions. I always like the analogy of, do you use chemo treatment to do hair removal? Well, do you do chemo to do hair removal? No, you take some steps. You go to your doctor, say, I want to remove some hair. He doesn't prescribe you chemo. And throughout sitting here listening to this, it seems like we're trying to remove hair with chemo. I guess I'll just finish it off here because, like I said, I have a hard time collecting my thoughts. Just a hair nervous. I know Mark Splonskowski would agree with me that the people saw him and they voted him in. And I know he'd agree with me that if the people didn't like what he was doing and they didn't agree with him, they'd vote him out. And I think that's the people's right, and I think that's the way the people should be able to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Schwab? Austin?
You're not
Somebody have a
done
question?
yet.
Now I have to answer to the masses. I collected myself. I'm actually not a bad public speaker.
Get up
it's
to the
just,
mic.
Yes, go ahead.
Steve, speaking to the mic, please.
Get the mic.
Schwab?
This isn't trying to, I think our biggest problem on this commission was trying to do this in the right way, trying to help Mark, not air dirty laundry in public.
Well, it sure feels like that.
Wait a
Commissioner.
minute. We've tried. We're going to start losing staff and stuff on account of this because they're doing his work and he doesn't seem to want to change. So
Well, if the people of Burleigh County are dissatisfied with his work, then they can remove him.
Well, but it's not his work. It's staff that's doing his work half the time.
And if the people of Burleigh County are dissatisfied with that, they can also take action there.
Well, the question is, though, are you offended now that it's coming out and it's transparent? It seems like some people are here. And you want transparency, you're going to get it right here, right now. And I'm a businessman for 47 years. And I'll tell you what, I can't go along with somebody that doesn't want to work with other staff. I cannot go along with somebody that goes out and it's always somebody else's fault. You need to grow up and take responsibility for your actions or inactions. But no, it appears like we got a campaign going here. Oh, it's everybody's fault. It's commissioners. It's this. It's that. Hey, come on. That's what I'm telling you is to be transparent. It isn't staff's fault. And yet, staff takes it on the chin via media. They're the ones that are getting the stuff done. And you need to realize this, and all you people need to look closer into this thing because there's more going on what you think. And this is one of them cases where we don't want to beat up on Mark. I would like to see Mark take his job seriously because he's capable. Very capable of doing it. Doesn't appear like he wants to do it. So, just so you know that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
This is a public hearing. Please sign in at the podium and state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is John Berger. I'm a resident of Bismarck and of Burleigh County. I started out this evening wanting to watch this on television, and I'll take Commissioner Schwab, your comments into context. I hear you on that. But the reason I'm here is that I was interested in hearing the pros and cons of moving from an elected office to an appointed office. And that's not at all what I heard. I heard personal attack after personal attack after personal attack. I don't think that serves you as commissioners well. I don't think that serves Mark well. And that's why I'm here. I can't make a comment on whether this office should be appointed or elected because I haven't studied enough, but I wanted to learn about it, and I don't think I did. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? John, can I ask a question? Absolutely. I'll ask you the same thing. Do you think the qualifications for the auditor are sufficient? Are they good enough for Burleigh County taxpayers?
I had to ask the gentleman next to me what the qualifications were, but if
Okay.
they're simply that someone is 18
Right.
and that they're a resident,
Right.
it
That's
does
it.
not seem adequate to me.
Thank you.
And as I understand, you guys don't have the ability to change those qualifications.
No, we don't.
If that's the whole thing of your argument, you don't have to attack Mark on that. You say it's an immovable object. No one can change it for the state, which I find hard to believe. There must be ways to change that too, even if it requires a change in the Constitution. But it's turned into an attack. I don't think that is helpful. I agree with so much of what Dustin said and the other gentleman. This is a great county. I love Bismarck. I absolutely love North Dakota. I just don't think this has been helpful.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Public hearing, anyone else wishing to speak?
My name's Patrick Langenfelder. I'm a resident of Burleigh County. Part of that family that's been here over 100 years. I do have some questions on the petition process that I'm having a really hard time getting a straight answer from, getting bounced around. So my very first question is, because all 6 pages of the Burleigh County Home Rule Charter doesn't cover anything about how to challenge a petition, refer it, as opposed to changing the home rule. There are different percentages, things like that. But right off the bat, the one thing you hit is state requirements for a sponsoring committee is 25. But the Secretary of State office doesn't help with the wording. They don't accept the petition. They don't. Who's responsible for that?
Yeah, it's Auditor Treasurer's office.
State, you're talking about state or county?
For the county.
Okay.
For the county. But I mean, do they go fully by state rules? Is it a standing sponsoring committee of 25 people, or does the county have different rules or levels? Because in different discussions with different people, I've gotten bounced around and I've gotten a couple different answers. So.
Best I could offer would be the auditor's office.
But it's a question of state law. Wouldn't the state attorney, well, the Secretary of State won't answer my question because it's a county matter.
I don't have the answer. I would have to ask Auditor Splonskowski to.
And I would refer you to Julie Lawyer for clarification on that.
Okay.
See, and that's the problem. I'm getting bounced around from
Well,
office
here's
to
the-
office to office.
get the
and I
real
can't get a
story
straight answer.
And I would refer you to North Dakota Century Code
I've read
11-10.2,
I've
which
read
is
it.
where it talks about combining the offices or redesignating the offices. And if you're talking about the petition to protest the plan or to protest the resolution if a final resolution is passed, it specifically states that the final resolution may be referred to the qualified electors of the county by a petition protesting the plan. The petition must be signed by 10% or more of the total number of qualified electors of the county voting for governor at the most recent gubernatorial election and filed with the county auditor or functional equivalent of that office before 4 p.m. on the 30th day after the final resolution is adopted. Within 10 days after the filing of the petition, the county auditor shall examine the petition and ascertain from the voter list whether the petition contains the signatures of a sufficient number of qualified electors. And then it goes on to talk about if they don't have enough, what to do there, but that is specifically
But
under.
it still doesn't talk about the sponsoring committee.
There isn't
to
really a
create the-
sponsoring committee. Qualified electors have to take the petition out, people have to sign the petition, and it's basically,
But to create the petition, you have to have a sponsoring committee.
doesn't say that.
State law does.
Right.
It doesn't have to have a sponsor?
When you're a candidate, you don't have a sponsoring committee. So it's just a petition that's approved by the county, and then you go.
Well, you're the first one to tell me. Boy, does that solve problems. Okay. Okay. First of all, I'm in favor of this going to a vote of the people. I mean, we're talking about voting franchise of the people. It's currently being an elected position. I do understand that Burleigh County you guys could avoid the petition process and challenges and all this other stuff by forming the resolution and putting it on the ballot yourselves. I mean, that would be, and then the vote of the people, taking away the franchise of a voter without letting them vote on it is In my opinion, not right. I like having a little bit of conflict between different elected officials. And I don't have a problem with airing laundry in public. Because, I mean, first of all, if you know they're going to air it in public, you might make more of an effort to resolve the issue before it gets that far. But obviously, from the stack of papers there, there have been a lot of fights going on for a long time. So it's really too bad. And now that we know that the Hatch Act doesn't apply, you guys can actively campaign against them in the next election. Let's see. You went over that. I wrote down some questions and notes, so I'm just kind of going through it. I don't know. He answered most of my questions. He answered the big one, so I appreciate it. But I am opposed to making it an appointed position, especially without a vote.
Well, that's why we're here. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone wishing to speak, please sign in at the clipboard by the pillar. And come up to the podium.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Chris Lingenfelder. I live in Burleigh County. I don't know who those other Lingenfelders are. I lived there 100 years. They might be stretching it a little bit. I've been listening, and honestly, I think this can be from really all the arguments come down to one, either the people, the voters, are too dumb, therefore the voters should lose a vote, or Mark Splonskowski is too dumb, and therefore the voters should lose a vote. Or, if we take a vote away from you, we'll make government more efficient. That's the wildest one to me. Never in my life, I mean, think of the deal that's being made here. Give up a vote, and with the long history of government that we've seen our whole life, you give a vote up, and we guarantee you that we will make our government more efficient. I mean, you're telling that to Americans. It'll be more efficient. I've never seen it. Maybe for a week, maybe for 5 years. In the long term, never seen it in my life. Government became, but you guys give your vote up right away. We'll make it efficient down the road sometime. Never seen it. And the other thing is, are we really at a point in government where efficiency is what matters the most? Efficiency over freedom. The vote is freedom, people. We're going to be more efficient. I mean, how many forms of government have full of technocrats that aren't elected? Super efficient. Is that where we're at? Efficiency. I say freedom. That vote's my freedom. And I'd rather have crappy, inefficient government and be free than have the Politburo and all the scientists in the world running it super efficiently. No, freedom. Freedom first. That's it. That's all I got.
Thanks, Chris. Public comment? Anyone wishing to speak, please sign at the pylon. Second call for public comment.
Commissioner Bakken, can I say one more thing?
Certainly.
So I just want to address the whole qualifications thing, because I've heard it on the radio too, that, well, if we're going to expect qualifications for our auditor, like, you know, we do for the sheriff, we do for the state's attorney, then we should have minimum qualifications for the five of you. You know, here we go again. It's happening all over the narratives and the propaganda that we're comparing grapes and grapefruit, apples and oranges. These are part-time jobs here. This is the board of directors. That's a full-time job at a cost burden. I'm just going to throw out, I know I heard he said it on the radio what his salary is, so the loading, benefits and everything, it's probably $150,000, $160,000 a year. So this is a full-time position, and what's happened is this position doesn't believe it's accountable to these 5 guys. How can these 5, and right now they're males, so I'm calling them guys, if I'm allowed to do that in this society today, these 5 people can't succeed at their jobs to protect all of us unless that job is successful. Now, you're talking about taking a vote away from the people who are voting for somebody in a position that these guys have to live with and can't hold them accountable. Do you see a problem in how these guys are going to protect us as a county? I see a problem here. So that's what got us to today, and we're here at these 5 public meetings now. For all of you who haven't been paying attention, I'm sorry, I'm not being critical, I'm at the risk of being critical, haven't been paying attention, but you're up here saying, you know what? I want to have a vote, period. I don't care if he's qualified or not, and then you 5 and the employees and the whole county has to live with whatever we as a voting public, witting or unwittingly, vote to put in there. I just see a major disconnect. I wouldn't want any one of these jobs and have that happen. That office has to be accountable to these people in the day-to-day. These people know what that office is doing. None of you or us do. But yet we want to have a vote. Well, why don't we get to vote for the county engineer? Why don't we get to vote for whatever, the guy that heads the roads for the county? I mean, if we want free, no, we shouldn't. No, we shouldn't. No, we shouldn't, because we're not interviewing these people. We're not interviewing these people and look, these guys are the ones that are looking at their resumes and know what their qualifications are. So, you know, I just wanted to address that part of it. I don't think it's fair to say, yep, we should have minimum qualifications here because we want them here in a full-time job and a position that is extremely important to the county. But I do think that maybe they should be separated, auditor and treasurer.
Just for a minute. Sure, come up, Mr. Subart.
Because I think, you know, some of the stuff you're saying, yeah, I agree with you, you know, but that's what these are for. But I think one thing that you're missing more than anything, some of us are very entailed on what's happening. We've been watching these county meetings for 2 years, okay? So don't put us like we don't know what we're talking about here. This is what I would like to see. Maybe you get Mr. Mark up here and ask him if he tried to save the county any money, because you guys said he lost the county money. Let's see if he's mentioned to any of you guys, because I might know something. Let's see if he mentioned anything to you guys about how to save money, and you guys turned him down. Let's air it out. Let's air it all out. Let's air it. Let's air everything out. Don't you think that's fair? If you're gonna sit up here, there's a lot of people that make comments on both sides, and it's correct. Hey, you guys need to come together, or else we can air everything out. Should we air everything out? That's what I think we should do, is just air everything out so every voter, every Burleigh County citizen knows what's happening. If it's the Provident Building, if it's Health and Human Services, ETA, okay? We can keep going down the list, and you know what I'm talking about, right, commissioners? Or the Provident Building, the $7 million to go in and redo it so we can send everybody down there when there's other options. That's the whole thing, and I'm not going to air it. I'm not going to air it. Okay? I think both sides have a good point. There is. Dustin Gowerlow is up here, said you guys need to work together. Okay? I sat down with Mark. He told me his qualifications. I sat and listened to him. And I went, wow, that's pretty cool. Okay? About investing money. Okay? Not everybody's perfect. Okay? You guys do some things that are right. He does some things that are right. He might do some things that are wrong, but I know you guys do some things that are wrong. We might disagree on how to spend money. Okay? We might disagree on how to spend money. But if you want to save $2 or $3 million, I know where you can save it right now. But you guys don't want to do that.
You said 2 or 3 million?
Yeah, you can save it right now. You guys have property, right?
You have property.
No, you
we
guys
don't have property.
You
the
guys,
taxpayers have.
Yeah,
property.
but Burleigh County's got property, right? So it wouldn't cost you any money to build on that property, would it?
I don't know what you're referring to, so go ahead and refer to it.
The Provident Building, $7 million.
Yes. What's your point?
Can't we do something a little bit less expensive than $7 million? And I'm not calling you guys out here. I'm just asking for the taxpayers of Burleigh County, because our property taxes we're getting crushed. Everybody's getting crushed, you know? And I know you guys know that, okay? But they seem to keep going up. Our budget keeps going up. And then when you have an auditor that might bring you something to save you guys money, you forget to tell the public that, right? You forget to tell the public that. So it goes both ways. He's trying to help too, and I see you guys are trying to help, and that stuff, that's what I'm saying. You guys are putting it all on one person over here, like he's the bad guy, look over here, while you guys are doing this over here. And I think everybody could work together. Everybody could work together. I mean, we've heard both sides here. And there's some things what they say, and I'm like, yeah, the voter thing, I think the voters should 100% get a chance to vote on this. I mean, because if we don't, you guys have already made your decisions up. You guys have already made your decisions. We heard it right away. I'm sitting here going, why did I waste my time to come to this meeting?
Mr. Chairman, can I respond?
Commissioner Woodcox?
You talked about investments, and in the last year and a half, we have underinvested. I call it underinvesting because we didn't do anything. We had a bank in North Dakota called us and said, "Yeah, you got $16 million sitting in the bank, and they're not doing anything with it. We're not getting any interest." So let me finish.
Mm-hmm.
Our auditor, our financial director, and they've looked at it. We've got 2 of them in the finance department. They went through the book for the last year and a half, and we've got another state audit coming up. There's been over $1 million of your money, not my money, your money, that we have lost, that you have lost because of improper investments. And that was because when Mark came in as an elected official, he knew nothing about investment. And that took a while. Did he ask for any education? No. Did he get any help? No. Did he go to a bank or a financial institution? They have financial officers that'll help you. Did he do any of that? No. So there you are. We went for a year and a half with improper investments. Does that make sense? Do you agree with that?
No, because how can you guarantee it's $1 million?
Pardon me?
How can you guarantee it's $1 million? How do you know where it'd be invested at? Because I can't go, yeah, if I had $16 million here, I lost $1 million. I couldn't say that because I wouldn't know.
We can prove it to you. I mean, it just takes time.
Yeah,
It's a conservative number.
and that would be something that would be good. That would be
Well,
something
it's a very complicated, it's a matter of.
But here's the point, though, Mr. Woodcox. We as voters will re-elect him, or we will elect somebody else.
My point is the qualifications. You should have somebody that's qualified in that position that knows something about banking or investment or business. And now, right now, the law that we're stuck with was made in 1889.
What did the
150 years ago.
What did the previous ones do? Were they accountants? Did they work for Edward Jones?
The previous one was a contractor in town, and I don't know exactly.
Did he work for Edward Jones or one of these big companies?
I can
Okay,
answer that.
the discussion, though, the point of
He
this
actually was
is...
a CPA.
Yes, and the point of this, though, is where is this positioning the county for the future for the best solution? Because our hands are tied as far as qualifications, but
Yes.
how do we set up the county? And this is going to go to a vote of the people, given what these comments are.
I think the vote of the people is the way to go. And if it turns out
this
how
is-
you guys want it, that's how it
This
goes.
is going to go to a vote. That's why we're having the time to do this.
Yep.
And we will spend every minute we can to make sure that everybody's heard.
I think-
So that
I
this
think
can
if it
go to a
goes
vote
to
of
a-
the people.
I think if it
because
goes
I
to a
will always
vote-
default to the people need to have a voice and decide.
Yes.
And that's why I'm very appreciative of everybody that's here today.
Yes, and we appreciate that. Just let us have the vote if we want it elected or non-elected, because I see both points. I mean, I see you come up here and that stuff, you say one or two things, and then there's one or two things that I look at and go, nope, ain't happening.
What we're trying to navigate is the fact that our hands are tied by the Century Code, and we're trying to put the county in the best position to move forward financially, long-term.
So would it be good for the public to hear Mark's view on investments, on what his title is and what he does? And
It's a public hearing, and Mark will have an opportunity to do
Okay,
that.
thank
So,
you.
This is public hearing. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hi, Cody Seibel, Burleigh County. Just a couple things. So I keep hearing this 18 years of age thing. Mark, were you 18 when you got this job? I just feel like you're looking really good for 18.
Really good for 18?
Well, I mean, really.
I've aged a
like,
lot in the last
The
year.
wisdom is there. Okay, so saying that, and we keep saying not qualified. I was 17 when I signed up for the military. Was I qualified? No. I could shoot a pellet gun. I could shoot a 22. I could do some things.
Couldn't even have a beer.
Couldn't even have a beer. So 18, I mean, and there are some, to be honest with you, there's some 45-year-olds that aren't qualified. Because we talked about maturity, right? So I don't appreciate, and even if it is 18 and it was 1889, there was some really great wisdom that came out of that era of founding fathers. Secondly, I will never read Century Code for fun. It's a copyright. It is a copyright infringement. It doesn't mean anything to me. Have I read the Constitution? Several times. Did I take an oath to the Constitution? Absolutely. Did I take an oath to the Century Code? Heck no. There's a reason. That wasn't written for me or by me. It was written by lawyers, and it's legalese. You guys just said there's a 12-page thing. That was written because periods cost money. Not because it's my right or as a description of me as the people. The other thing is an elected position is an elected position throughout that term. And there's a reason that we hold elected positions, especially when money is at risk. I'm sorry, but I get that there are people out there that vote and don't know what they're doing, but they have the right to vote because their money is paying for that position. Their money is paying for your positions. So it absolutely should say. Now, whether or not qualifications, and I know that you used an analogy about doctors and lawyers, there's a licensure board for those people. So those qualifications go through them. This position is an elected position, and it should stay an elected position.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your service as well. This is a public hearing. Anyone else wishing to speak, please come forward after you sign in at the pylon.
Signed in, evening, commissioners. I'm Luke Langenfelder. I've lived here my whole life. I'm another one. We're all here because of what's going on with Mark. I'd like to see some of you be able to sit down on KFYR, wherever it is, put them out here where everybody can see them, and have a real discussion about this with him being able to answer questions about his position. I hear lots of fingers being pointed. I don't know all of Mark's qualifications. He's been helping the city out for more than 2 or 3 years. Just allow him to speak. Have the balls to sit down and have a conversation with him that people can hear. I think everybody would really appreciate getting both sides of this story on a one-on-one deal instead of it being separated the way that it is. I don't think that would be that tough to do. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hello, I'm Kip Rath. This is new to me, Burleigh County resident. And I would just say I'm going to make this short and sweet. I feel that it should be an elected position. And just do right. Just do right. You five and Mark. Just do right and work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment? Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hi, I'm Matt Lingenfelder.
Family reunion.
Are there any other ones?
The Dodge thing got me thinking. I know earlier someone mentioned that as a negative, Mark pointed people used to paper ballots. Elon Musk, among other people, have come out and said paper ballots are the most secure, best way to do elections. And there's really no reason to do electronic voting machines other than to enable cheating. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
So my name is Lori Halverson. I'm a Burleigh County resident, and I do not want this to change. This needs to be an elected position. There is no way you guys shouldn't be overseen by somebody that's looking after the money. I don't trust you with all the money. We need to have somebody independent overseeing you guys with the money. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kay, and yes, I am I'm resident. And I really have nothing new to say other than to support what we've been talking about here, is that this auditor position should be and one that we vote for. It should not be one that you guys appoint, and I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Steve Nagel here, and as I understand, 2020, this already went to a vote. 2022, the 2022 initiative is what changed that, correct? Right? To be able to move this, to change the rules. And so in order for that to happen, it had to go to the voters again, correct? So the point being is, in order for it to go to the voters, it had to garner support. And so I specifically, and there was, very thankfully, we have people that are really great at looking back at different testimonies. And what I would like to present and play for you here is testimony during that time from the state's attorney, Julie Lawyer, stating that this would also, that it would have to go back to the voters anyways. And so I have the audio here that I'd like to play if you guys are okay with that.
Just make sure you hold it up to the mic, Steve.
Okay.
The public in this subcommittee today is that home rule charter draft with a section 2 added regarding adoption of ordinances and resolutions. That pretty much follows the Century Code as it allows the public by referendum to initiate a county-wide ordinance, or it also allows the county commission to adopt a county-wide ordinance. One other thing I wanted to point out is that under Article 3 of the draft, there were a couple of provisions added regarding elections. The first Home Rule Charter had 2 paragraphs because the Home Rule Charter has to state regarding elected officials either staying elected or being appointed. That was included in the 2013 draft, but this 2022 draft does add a couple more provisions again to comply with state law, which does allow converting those elected offices to appointed offices with approval of the electorate. So that, if it's contested, and so that was added on just to comport with statute as well. So I just wanted to point out those were the 2 changes that were made from the 2013 Home Rule Charter to this 2022 Home Rule Charter. The 2022 draft does not have a sunset provision is what we call it in the law, where it expires after a time regarding the ordinance authority. It still has the sunset provision or the expiration date for the 0.5% sales tax. So really the only changes that were made were to add that ordinance making authority and make that as long as the Home Rule Charter is in existence, and then to clear up that language regarding elected and appointed officials.
So then Mr. Garlow asked for a clarifying question.
Dustin? You said that the statute requires the language regarding the elected officials to
be in the home rule if the home rule exists. Was that the statute at the time of the passage of the home rule, or was that passed since 15?
No, that's been in there for.
Yeah, this was a mistake. So the original home rule technically could have issues on its own just because of that?
No, there aren't any issues with it. It's just that the statute required that we put something in as to whether those elected positions were made elected or be appointed. And so basically it just says that they're elected and they stay elected. Because the statute requires us to address that issue.
They're elected and they stay elected. So they're elected and they stay elected. So this was given before it went to a vote. And so what happens then is the media says, all these people that were trying to garner support for it says, don't worry, it'll remain an elected position. But apparently that's not the case. Apparently our memories have shifted, specifically our state's attorney's memory has shifted as to how this thing works. Either that memory has shifted, perspective has shifted, or it was never really truly genuine to start with. That's all I got for you guys tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Nagel. Public hearing, anyone else wishing to speak? Second call.
Hi, I'm Marcia. Can you hear me? I'm Marcia Lemke, and I'm a citizen of Burleigh County. I'm not saying one way or the other whether this should be appointed or elected, but I am concerned about the next 2 years for North Dakota, for Burleigh County. I think you guys need a good facilitator who can bring you all together and sit down and figure this out for the next 2 years. I appreciate, though, that you're having these open hearings. That's always good for citizens to be able to speak and to decide whether it is. But I don't see how the voters could vote honestly one way or the other right now. You know, there needs to be a facilitator who brings out all the best and the worst together. And if you have no other ideas, I know University of Mary has some very capable people, but I'm sure you know other facilitators too. So I'm really concerned as a mom and a grandma here and a great-grandma now in Burleigh County. We've got them all here. We need to get this settled down. 2 years is too long to be messing around like this, you guys. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Second call for public hearing. Third and final call for public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Actually, before I close it, Mark, do you have anything to add? Or, I mean, at some point, if you want to speak at one of these, feel free.
I will only speak if the people want me to right now.
And again, the intent is not about personal this is me speaking. This is not supposed to be about personal. We're not supposed to have personal at the table. This is about the office itself and what's the best way to move forward with the office. Is it having an appointed or elected position? And Mark, go ahead.
In an effort to not hog the microphone, I will apply the 5-minute timer to myself. So
really? I didn't do that all night.
That
so.
I did it.
You know where I'm at on that.
Yes, Vice Chairman Bakken, I know that you've said that this is not a personal attack. However, I think the people here can see that's quite the opposite. This has been a personal attack. Now granted, that being said, this isn't the first time that my position has been attacked by commissioners. I'm not the first auditor to go through this. It just has gone public now. There are too many comments that were made tonight by commissioners, and I'm actually very disturbed and disappointed that so many of the people here at the public hearing were challenged by commissioners. In my opinion, a elected official, when listening to public hearing, should be neutral. I've gone through public hearings along with yourself on the city commission, very contentious ones. And I think that we both handled ourselves well, and we didn't challenge people. We were there to listen to the people. And tonight we had commissioners challenging the people, which is concerning to me. There's also comments made about me not reaching out for guidance, not reaching out for help, not reaching out to banks. I'm sorry, Commissioner Woodcox, how many times have I met with banks in the last 2 years?
Talking about the first 6 months or the first 9 months, 0. You might have called them or something, but you didn't ask them any investment advice. There was no advice.
So you know for sure that I did not meet with any banks in the first 6 months of being auditor. Do you know that? Do you know my daily logs?
I have no idea whether you did or did not.
Thank you. Thank you.
All I'm saying is, now let me finish.
So you want public hearing? I'll stop my timer here.
Okay,
Go ahead.
stop your time. All I'm saying is that the production that we got in the first year and a half was not according to anybody's advice, good advice. I don't know where you got it, but it certainly wasn't good because the taxpayers have lost $1.5 million of money. If they don't want to worry about it, don't worry about it. Then we'll keep going the way we are. And I know in the last month or the last 6 weeks, the investment policy has changed because now things are invested properly, but before that they were not. Now, I don't know whether you met with them or not. I don't know whether I was on a bank board before, so I know what they have available. Whether you went and met with them, I don't know.
I'll start my timer again.
Did you? Okay, did you?
Okay.
Did you?
Yes.
Where? Who? If you want to be specific, who?
I met with them here in our first floor
Who?
conference room.
Who?
Most of them.
Most of
in
them.
our
Is
first
that-
in our first floor conference room, and that is where we decided to start consolidating how many banks we were in, because we were in so many different banks, it was unmanageable.
Okay. I don't want to.
I'm not going to argue with right here, Commissioner.
We're not going to argue right here because it doesn't make any difference.
I'll stop my timer again if you want. No. Okay, thank you. So, so there have been times where I've reached out for things. And then also, and thank you for the maybe unintended compliment, but I'll take it that way, that we're investing well right now.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. I'll take that.
I hope you are. At least
Example.
From what I understand, you are.
Example. I went out for bids. I just reinvested a good share of money here this last week. Went out for bids for treasuries and CDs. Treasuries were never looked at in the past by myself or any previous auditor. Looked out for treasuries. Treasuries had a higher percentage rate, but they come with administration fees. That wasn't discussed before, was it? They come with administration fees. After the administration fees, the CDs produced higher yields. That wasn't discussed.
How about the ones that you didn't do anything with?
So,
How about the 16 million?
So here's another example.
We're getting into an
Here's
argument.
another example of a public hearing gone awry.
Yeah.
That being said, and I'm saying this for the benefit of the people because they requested me to get up and speak, there have been many, many issues with myself, with the commissioners, with individual commissioners, and it's been stated that they've tried to work with me. I can say that's a gross misrepresentation of what has happened in the last year. I've reached out for help. I even asked for another person in my staff, which was taken off immediately. The structure of our office has been changed drastically over the last 30 years. No auditor has had to deal with the office structure that I've had to deal with in the last 30 years. No auditor. And so this commission comes forward and says, we got a real mess here. We got a real problem. I agree. We have a major mess. And I've been saying the whole time to stop. I'm standing at this podium here saying, don't do this, and don't do this, please, because then I will need more staff and I will cost the taxpayers more money. I am on the record saying
You're looking at me directly, and you've never told me that stop. You've never told me that. So
you can look at the meeting. Look at the meeting. It's recorded, thank God. So there have been many times, and there's been many issues that I brought up where we can save the county money, and I want to work with you. I want to work with you because I believe that Burleigh County needs to be successful, and we and yourselves are here to serve the taxpayers, not ourselves, not only our special interests, not our own personal goals. We are here for them. That's 5 minutes. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. So final call for public hearing. Any other Langenfelders want to speak? All right, this public hearing is closed. I will say this, our next public hearing, and if you have already spoken, you will not have an opportunity to speak again. so that we can open it up for everybody else who has not spoke. But our next public hearing will be March 17th in the Burleigh County Commission room right here. Also April 7th. In the meeting here as well, and some dates to be determined in both Sterling and Wilton. The online survey, I'm going to pass this back to our chair. If he has anything to add, because he did not have an opportunity to speak at the beginning as well. And then I do want to have a discussion of our preliminary resolution and what that looks like online, so we can have public comment on online as well. So
Go ahead and continue with that if you want.
okay, so the preliminary resolution, and if I can get Mary Singer up here, we had had a couple conversations, and I know we did have some people that reached out with a valid point that a large population of Burleigh County is in Bismarck, and if they don't have an opportunity to speak as well, I'm amenable to having another Saturday date that's in Burleigh County or in Bismarck rather than out in the county. And if that means we have to do 3 on a day, I'm open for that as well, because that was a valid point on somebody that may not be able to attend one of these meetings, having to travel a long distance to go to one of the other ones out of town when they live in town. So a little different discussion. But as far as our online, where are we at as far as getting that posted? Because I know there was some amendments or some changes that we were looking at doing.
So the online survey remains the same.
Is that on? Is that microphone on?
The online survey remains the
Thanks,
same.
Mark.
We have the preliminary resolution, the preliminary plan, and then the questions are the same as what was presented before, first and last name, their address, city within Burleigh County. Email is optional, phone number is optional for follow-up, and then comments. My only suggestion would just be to ask the yes or no question, do you approve redesignating elective office of auditor treasurer to appointed? Same as we did for the sign-up sheet.
Okay, so I would be amenable to that, is if you want to have a consensus for that, I think we're fine with that as well.
I'm good with it.
So I'm good with that. Commissioner Woodcox?
No change as far as I'm concerned.
Commissioner Schwab, are you okay with that?
I'm going to the bathroom.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask for a pause before we get back at her. So, actually, we have to wait for you then, because we don't, well, actually, no, we have a consensus.
We have 3.
Yeah, we're good. So, yes, Mary, please make that
Okay.
addition to that.
So then the online survey will probably be up tomorrow or the day after, and then we'll make sure we post that so it's available off the main page.
Okay, thank you. So, for those listening at home, that survey will be available either tomorrow or on Wednesday on the Burleigh County website for input. So, once again, I did want to read through the preliminary resolution. So, it is actually whether or not to redesignate the elective office of Burleigh County Auditor Treasurer to an appointed office. And the resolution itself is whereas the elected offices of Burleigh County Auditor and Burleigh County Treasurer have been combined into one elective office back in May 5th of 2003, whereas the County Auditor Treasurer's primary duties are Chief Financial Officer, Elections Officer, Secretary of the County Commission, keeping track of all property taxes, and to act as the accountant, financial manager, and investor for the county, whereas pursuant to North Dakota Century Code 11-10-04, the qualification for an elected county auditor or county treasurer is the candidate must be qualified elector in the county, which is at least 18 years old and a resident of the county, whereas the Board of County Commissioners believes that more qualifications are necessary for an individual to hold the position of auditor treasurer, whereas the Home Rule Charter for Burleigh County, as passed on June 11, 2024, Article 3, Section 3 allows the Board of County Commissioners to follow state law converting the elected office to county auditor treasurer in an appointed office, and pursuant to North Dakota Century Code 11-10.2-01 sub 1 sub C, the county may redesignate an elective County office as an appointive office. Now therefore be it resolved that effective April 1st, 2027, and in accordance with the details of the following plan, the office of Burleigh County Auditor Treasurer be designated as an appointive office. Resolved that a copy of this preliminary resolution and a company plan shall be filed in the office of the County Auditor Treasurer and shall be published once each week for 2 consecutive weeks with public hearings scheduled thereafter, dated this 3rd day of February 2025, Burleigh County Commission. And that is what is up for discussion on whether or not it should be an elected or an appointed position. I would ask everybody at home, do your homework, look into it. There are some larger cities and larger jurisdictions, larger counties that have gone that route, and there's benefits, and I can see the point on both sides. But again, this is an opportunity for the voters and the taxpayers of Burleigh County to have a voice, and that's what this is about. So once again, our next public hearing will be March 17th in this building at 5 p.m. for the Burleigh County Commission meeting. So with that, I will...
While you're on that subject, we talked about the counties that have already done the appointed thing.
It's the large counties.
Well, I
in the
have a
state,
list,
yeah.
and that's why I was just going to go ahead and give you the list. So it's Cass, Grand Forks, Lemoore, Nelson, Pierce, Richland, Stutzman, Towner, Walsh, Ward, and Wells. So those are the counties that have already done that. And then somebody had a question about salary and benefits. So at one point, I asked the HR director what the salary is for the auditor. So the salary without benefits is $111,238.40, and with benefits, that adds up to $166,077.98. Just for information, that's all I had.
All right, then our final, as all the other commissioners had an opportunity to speak, you as the portfolio holder, did you have anything to add? Because I know you deferred your opportunity to speak.
We've been going at it now for almost 3 hours, and I have a little bit of information, and there was a list that I kind of boiled down to like 55 individual issues. But I'd rather hang on to that for another time so we can move on and
okay.
Mr. Chairman,
get done.
One of the things these people complain about is they don't know any of that, and we've got to get it out at some time, and it may take time, but I think it's worth it. I really do.
Well, if that's an opportunity at the next meeting, if you want to, for brevity's sake.
I would like to do it at the next meeting.
Absolutely.
Because we've already got 3 hours into it.
Okay, well, I don't care if it's 3 hours or 30 hours. That's
Well,
what we're here for.
We've got to take the time.
That's our job. All right, with that, I will pass the meeting back to Chair Bittner.
Thank you, Commissioner Bach, and I appreciate you doing the various reading and whatnot, because that's a mouthful. Appreciate you doing that.
Could we get that repeated for the record?
Certainly.
That's a mouthful.
Before we get back into the meeting, could I have a 2-minute recess?
Yeah, you go right ahead. Go
Speak
ahead.
amongst yourselves.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner.
While he's leaving, and he'll be back, obviously, there are so many things that people don't know, and a pile of them is right there, and then we've all got our individual things where we've tried to work with the auditor, and they just haven't worked. And people don't know that, and it's not just that we're picking on one particular thing. There are hundreds of things that have happened that we haven't gotten the work out of it, or we haven't gotten the right answers, or the answers at all, and so many things have come out that people don't know about it. And I think we've got to spend some time on what he's got and what we've got. Every commissioner and every head of every department has things that they've worked with the auditor and have not worked. They just have not worked. So I want to make that point clear.
Yeah. Commissioner Schwab.
The problem with that, and I'm beginning to see that tonight, everybody wants transparency. They're getting transparency, and it's going to get worse. But they all say, not all, but a lot of them say, well, we're after Mark. No, Mark has done good work for me when he feels like it. I want everybody to know that. His problem is he doesn't know how to do teamwork, with staff and stuff, although he says he does, he is not doing it. And it's just, this county has lost a lot of money and stuff on account of that. And to go out, like I said, and to blame the commissioners. Now, last time used to be he was just after the chair. Now all of a sudden there's 3 commissioners. Might as well make it 5. Because 5 people are sitting here and I actually think it was right that we didn't go after this sooner. It's kind of like we were trying to cover up for him and get things through, but he doesn't appreciate it. And when everything comes up again, when the stuff comes up again, then the people that he's been trying to throw under the bus are going to have to come and bail the county out again, and I don't think that's fair. And like I say, I like Mark personally. He could do it if he wanted to do it, but it doesn't seem like he wants to work with people.
Okay, Commissioner Munson.
I want to follow up with something that Vice Chair had made a point on. At the end of the day, it is our job as commissioners to ask the residents for this to be an appointed or an elected position. It is our responsibility to explain to the residents why we feel it should be an appointed versus an elected. And that's where whatever Mark did in the past doesn't matter. The reality of it is and Vice Chair Bakken said it quite well, we've grown to be a very, very large community, and we need to prove to the residents that this should be either appointed or elected. And I think it gets down to the bottom line there. It's our responsibility to teach the residents or to explain to the residents why we feel it that way.
Commissioner Bach.
And just beyond that, and I can't state this enough, for me, this is not about anything personal. It's not tit for tat. It's nothing like that. This is about what the best form of business for the county of Burleigh looks like moving forward. You know, and it's the same as if we're having a discussion on a county administrator. So there's more oversight for the entire operation. There's a lot of different components to this, and this is now, it's my Doge statement earlier, it's about efficiency. Yeah, we're here at the behest of our voters and our taxpayers, but it's our responsibility to do it in the most efficient, economical fashion possible, because it's not our money. It's not ours. And so if we don't have an opportunity to constantly challenge ourselves to what does it need to look like? And the phrase I hate the most on this plan, and I hated it as mayor, I hate it today, I will always hate it, is that's the way we've always done business. And evolve or die. If you're not looking at it, and you know what? What's been going on for 40 years might be the best path. It might be the best way to do something. But if you're not looking at it, you're not going to know it's the best way. So you always have to be looking at, is there a better way to do something? And that is what is incumbent upon us as elected positions.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to move on. Item number 8, County Engineer Hall, second approach permits, developer waiver request, awarding of contract for replacement of the bridge at that number, review of previous Bartlett and West contracts, and contract for County Road 10 roadway improvement. Marcus, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. First item I have is the request for a second approach. We received a request for a second approach up in Harvest Road 3rd subdivision. There is a map in your packet to locate where that is at. Because the proposed second approach was less than 100 feet center to center, we were not, as a highway department, allowed to approve that. So we denied that. The individual would ask for that appeal to the county board, and I said I'd put it together and bring it to the board, so I have. The second map that you've got kind of shows where those two approaches will be. This is a low-speed, low-traffic count kind of roadway. There isn't, the second approach will not decrease the safety by any massive amount, so I don't necessarily see a problem with it.
Sure.
Commissioner Bakken.
Marcus, long-term development perspective, because currently it's low speed, low risk at this location? Would putting a second approach encumber anybody else in the future from any opportunities up there as adjacent landowners, or are we setting a bad precedent by doing this if it was to pass? Again, I look at unintended consequences.
Yeah, you're correct, Commissioner. At some point down the road, if every individual out there asked for a second approach, you'd start looking at that and going, is that really a safe situation? However, as long as it stays low volume, low speed, I don't necessarily think a lot of approaches were going to negatively affect.
And this isn't going to change. This is residential. It
Yep.
won't be an improved roadway.
That's
Okay.
correct. So,
That's all I had. I move to approve if anybody else doesn't have any
Second.
comments.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries.
the next item I have on the agenda, this individual asked today, he just contacted us and said he was not going to move forward with platting this particular property, so we don't need to address the pavement waiver at this time, so.
Okay. The record reflect that it's been withdrawn.
The next item I have on the agenda is moving forward with the replacement of Bridge 126-40. The county is looking forward to replacing this bridge. On February 3rd, the county board authorized the auditor and the engineer to advertise for bids. We did open bids on February 27th. The bids are listed in your packet. We did receive 2 bids, and they are below the engineer's estimate. We've reviewed the bids. They look just fine. We recommend adopting the proposed resolution in your packet.
Move to approve awarding the contract to MMI Improvement Company for $330,703.08.
Second.
Motion is second to approve.
Question.
Commissioner Woodcox.
How is this being paid again? Or that's,
This particular bridge is being paid with general fund money.
okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Just significantly under the engineer's estimate, which is a great thing for Burleigh County. Because if I recall right, even the culverts were.
Yes, and culverts were also.
underestimated as well. So that's all great news. Anything else? Call the roll.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries.
The next item I have on the agenda, at the last county board meeting, we were discussing hiring a contractor or a design engineering firm to do the engineering services for us on Highway 10. And there was some concern about the particular firm that we selected for this particular project. Because of that concern, we felt it was maybe a good idea to line up a meeting with my portfolio holder and the consultant firm that was in question. This particular firm, the issue was not necessarily with their engineering side of the operation, but with other sides of their operation. So we did set up that meeting. I was not able to attend that, but Commissioner Schwab did, and maybe he'll give a summary of that particular meeting.
Commissioner Schwab, you want to?
Do we dare use the name?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. We had a meeting with Bartlett and West, and it goes back quite a ways to 2018, where there was supposed to be a feasibility study done for the first building out at the fairground. It was an analytical study. Turns out it really wasn't one, and quite an argument at a commission meeting in 2018 came between Chair Bittner, and you were sitting in my chair at that time, and the gal was sitting in your chair. Well, anyway, that could have been resolved way back then easily, but whatever. So we sat down with Darren Schaefer and James Landenberger from Bartlett and West. The people there were me, Casey, and Dan at the Highway Department, and as a team, the five of us went through everything and come to the conclusion that back then, they didn't really do a feasibility study, and they should have come to the commission for direction because they had already gotten response that it wasn't feasible. There just wasn't any place around here where you could get the information that they needed. Instead, they kind of went ahead and did what they called a recap of a study, and it was actually not what we really wanted. But anyway, we worked together, and we decided that if it wasn't what we wanted, what we needed, wasn't the right product, they would refund the money, and they did. I have nothing but good to say about Bartlett and West. I've worked behind them, and I honestly believe that it's kind of every once in a while in business you can have an employee just goes out there and just doesn't follow the rules, and this happens and they don't catch it. They get the bill. Excuse me, they get the bill, but they're going to assume that it's a good bill. And in this case, it wasn't, but I want to see them continue to work with Burleigh County, and I'm going to ask you to accept that check for, that's the end of it. And then I want to thank Marcus and all these guys up there, Bartlett West guys. Mark did some research on it. It was a team effort.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. That's good information. I want the record to reflect that we do have in our possession a check from Bartlett and West for $16,500, and we thank them for their attention to that issue because that affected a vote at the last county commission meeting. So I'll make sure and get this to staff. Other than that, go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioners. So this follows into the next item that we have on the agenda, which is basically hiring a consulting firm to do the construction administration for our Highway 10 project coming up. This particular services will be paid 80% federal, 20% local. On December 2nd, the county board authorized the Highway Department to seek construction engineering services. On February 3rd, we opened up the proposals. We did receive 7 proposals at that time. One of the firms did drop out, but we did go ahead with the conducting interviews, and then we did that on February 13th. Through that interview process, we ranked the firms. Bartlett and West was ranked the most qualified firm. Because this is a heavily subsidized federal project, the DOT does most of the negotiations on this particular project. So between the DOT, Bartlett and West, and the county, we'll sit down, develop the scope of services, and come up with a dollar figure associated with that. There is a proposed resolution in your packet to move forward and hire Bartlett and West to do this particular project.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. County Planning Director Mitch Flanagan, amend Article 8, Section 28, accessory dwelling units. Welcome, Mitch.
Good evening, Commissioners. Did you receive the packet today?
We did.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
we did.
All right. This is a petition to amend Article 8, Section 28 to allow accessory dwellings in Burleigh County. It's basically, these are type units that are separate and complete dwelling units, either inside an existing home or a detached accessory building. The intent of this, one of the purposes of this ADU ordinance is to encourage the accessory dwelling buildings to be compatible with the design and the character of these neighborhoods for single family especially. There was a lot of discussion at our meetings of why can't we just have a non-related person, we build a house for them if he's sick or they need help or whatever. The intent of this is to allow it for relatives, mother-in-laws, elderly parents, college kids, whatever. And keep it in the family, keep it within the residential confinement of just relatable people. And it was kicked around quite a bit, quite often on almost every meeting, and it was basically, I ended up explaining that would be more along the lines of multifamily. And multifamily dwellings are not allowed in Burleigh County. We have duplex. They can build a duplex if they rezone it to an R3 or have a development of R3. But it's back to basically they were concerned about the affordable housing in Burleigh County. And so the intent of this was not to allow affordable housing, but to some of the people that I've talked to, the reason why I even began this is that there was a complaint about a neighbor who had built on his garage for his father. And we had to deal with that. And so that was the beginning of why we wanted to introduce this. So it's a confined ordinance. It could be problematic in the future if people want to start renting these things out, and that was discussed. I know you brought it up for when you were at the meeting, Brian, Commissioner Bittner, that you did not want to allow this, and that's a consideration, a big consideration. So it is a very simple 6-page ordinance. It has attached to it, although it's not part of the ordinance, it's attached to it as a non-conversion agreement that they would need to sign, basically stating that they cannot start renting it out or selling a separate property or anything like that. It's confining to that original agreement as per the special use permit.
Okay.
It went to 2 public hearings, and the last public hearing, it was recommended for approval.
So moved.
Quick question. So Mitch, the one issue I saw about this was enforcement. Say somebody moves in to one of these dwellings, not related, and how do we enforce that? That was my question when I read through this was, well, I'm not charging them rent, so they're fine. What's the enforcement action here, or the mechanism by which we can have some oversight on this?
Again, it's the confinements of that special use permit, how we issued it in the first place, considered it, approved it, all the considerations of that. We have to follow that because each one of these are going to be different. I mean, you're going to have a little bit different on each one, different conditions, but it still has to be tied to that proof that they're related to each other. And it's to keep it in the confinements of a family.
Okay.
And we have to rely on the original issuance of that permit and go back to the record of it and talk to the owners of how this was established in the first place.
Would that be something that, if somebody wants to establish that, we get that in writing so that there is an easy record of that?
Yeah, that is what he's talking about.
Yeah, so
it's a special use permit, and we go through that.
Right, but I still see there's a potential loophole that, I know, it's going to be hard. I'm not in favor of them. It's just, somebody wants to try to skirt the issue. That's not fair to the rest of the neighbors either, so.
Commissioner Schwab.
I believe the county, not the county, but the city allows these, right?
Yes.
Yes. Well.
So how do they handle it?
Pretty much the same way.
Yeah.
Non-conversion, Mr. Chair, there's a non-conversion agreement. It has to be signed and it's recorded. So it's it's a record of what we have for their agreement.
Yeah. I was mayor at the time, and that was the quote-unquote granny flats, or the mother-in-law suites, and the ability to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was part of that too.
Yes, you were as the planning, so.
Yeah.
I will second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you,
Mitch.
Commissioners.
Okay, next is Commissioner Bakken, the carbon dioxide discussion. We had I'll just give a little background real quick. We had a little discussion. It's not necessarily just carbon dioxide. He has an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and speak on the subject of carbon dioxide, and he's looking for consensus or approval from the county commission. Go ahead, Commissioner.
So, first of all, is there a representative of Summit Carbon Solutions here tonight? Is there?
Kidding me.
Because they show up at everything.
No.
No, there's not. Okay, I had an opportunity, I was approached by a group, including some folks from South Dakota that are fighting the carbon sequestration and what I view as the illegal taking of land, and the public safety side concerning CO2 pipelines in the proximity of property owners and residences. So I have an opportunity to go. I was invited as an elected official. I wanted to come and ask for permission from this board. I have my own opinions. I think we're all pretty much in consensus, but I did want a consensus from this board to be able to speak for the county. So that was my ask tonight.
Okay, first of all, I don't have any problem with that. I think we've all been involved in those conversations, and I think we're all on the same page or nearly the same page. And so I personally trust that the vice chair would speak on behalf of Burleigh County in a favorable way. And I would be okay with that, and if it requires a motion, I would ask for one, but I think consensus is probably fine. Commissioner Munson?
My first question, after having all these conversations about whose expense is it for you to travel to DC for this?
There is zero cost to Burleigh County. I was invited to speak as an elected official, and the entire expense will be picked up by those that invited me. Okay. It's my understanding there's going to be about 500 people from across the country that will be speaking in DC to do some lobbying and speak on what municipalities are dealing with and landowners are dealing with concerning carbon sequestration. So there will be no expense to Burleigh County.
Awesome. And I concur. We all believe pretty much the same thing, and you have my vote to go.
Where is this at?
Washington, D.C.
I ain't going with you.
Just think, Commissioner, that
Can I
Burleigh
carry?
County Commission is a springboard to bigger things. Obviously, you're working with folks that have
Do we need a
had lot of
motion?
skin in the game, too.
Do we need a motion?
Yes.
I think that'd be okay.
I move we approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve.
Speaking for the county, so I think we
Yeah.
should approve it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. So, any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Abstain?
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. County Sheriff Liebman. Oh, no. Oh, I already did that.
Yep.
Ha, thanks. I'm just following along like a little puppy, you know? County Auditor Treasurer Splonskowski, consideration of financing resolution for Special Assessment District 76, Faulkner Estates.
Yes, Chairman and Commissioners, this is really just the next step for SAD 76. We have to get the financing approved by the commission, and then at the next meeting, we should be able to relatively tie this up. I was able to secure financing for this particular project through a program through BND, which is at 2%. So it's very, very low interest rate for them, and should work really, really well. So if you have any questions, or I would recommend approving the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion, Commissioner Woodcox?
Have we done these financing resolutions before?
This is standard procedure, yes.
I've never voted on one of these.
Yeah, this was sent to me by Scott Wagner.
Okay. Because we've never had the opportunity to get the whole resolution and all this before. It's just
Just want to make sure you got all the information possible.
Call the
Oh,
roll.
yeah. Commissioner Schwab? Yes. Commissioner Woodcox?
Yes.
Commissioner Munson?
Yep.
Commissioner Bakken?
Yes.
Chairman Bittner?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item is other business. Anything for the good of Burleigh County? Commissioner Bakken.
I just want to take an opportunity to thank everybody who gave up a couple hours tonight, staff included, for the discussion, the public hearing on redesignating the elective office of Burleigh County Auditor Treasurer to an appointed office. Thank you for everybody that took the time to speak, and our next meeting will be March 17th here at 5 p.m., Burleigh County Commission meeting. We didn't have the discussion about adding a potential third off schedule, which if we want to do that now or if we want to do that later, I would be amenable to attending Sterling, Wilton, and one in Bismarck if we could do them all on the same day, but anything for an opportunity for people's voices to be heard, I'm all about that, so.
Okay, I think in that regard, I would ask, Mary has been putting effort into finding those locations out in those towns and whatnot. She put a lot of effort in. And I wonder if she would be able to maybe line up what we would do here, whether we'd have to make arrangements for this room or some other room, because I know she's made arrangements for the videotaping and all of that.
Correct.
So I think we should ask that she look into that, and then we'll discuss it at the next meeting.
And we can discuss that at the next meeting,
Yep,
so.
I think so.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Woodcox? I'm sorry, Commissioner Schwab was first.
Okay, sorry, go.
The only thing I want to mention again, time is running out for that tax credit. And you go to it's a $500 tax credit like we got last year, and you can go to the county website, push the bar, and it'll take you right to it. And the young folks, take care of your parents if they're disabled or whatever, make sure they get that in.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodcock.
At our next meeting, I'd like to put on the agenda that we go through the things that we've had for the auditor for the past year and a half. The public certainly expressed their opinion that they don't know a lot of it, and most people don't know a lot of it, but it seems very important that they are allowed to listen to us. I don't know whether we want to have a roundtable discussion or what it might be, but I think we should dedicate at least an hour of our next meeting to, we're going to have a public hearing too, to at least be able to discuss all of the problems and events that we've gone through in the last year and a half.
I think that's fair.
So I can put that on the agenda then as far part, on whether we want to be part of the public hearing, that's what I want to ask, or before or after the public hearing or whatever, but a separate 1 hour.
It seems to me that would be part of the public hearing, that we would want the people that are here for the
Okay,
public hearing to
as
hear.
long as we're allowed to do that, that's fine with me.
Well,
And
yeah,
also,
is there any reason why not? Okay.
and also, our auditor questioned the fact that we challenged the people who came up. And I don't know that asking a question is a challenge,
Yeah,
but
I don't think that was an appropriate comment.
no. When they come up and we want to, and they say a bunch of things which they want to say, and that's what we're here to listen to, at least we should be able to ask a question of them. And not that we want to get an argument or anything, but I don't think that should be considered a challenge to a public hearing participant.
Commissioner Bakken.
And I would add too, this isn't necessarily an indictment of any one individual in that office, because when I go back and take a look at some of the things previously, there are questions that I have with previous performance coming out of that office. And this goes back prior to our current auditor treasurer. So again, for me, this conversation is about what's in the best interest of Burleigh County taxpayers and residents for making sure that the operation of Burleigh County as a business moving forward is in the best position it can be, just like a conversation that we're going to have in the future about a county administrator, facility director, any of those positions. That's all a discussion that this table needs to have. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Woodcock.
Also, Well, I guess that's part of it. I think everybody should have an opportunity to speak, and everybody, I don't know whether we don't want to get into a big argument, because that doesn't solve anybody's problems, but we had an incident in the last 10 days that popped up that's very difficult. Whether we want to discuss that at that time, I think the people need to know about that and what we've decided. And I don't know that we made a decision, whether it's our decision or it's the auditor's decision on how that problem was handled, but it certainly was a problem, and I don't want to kick the can down the road anymore. I mean, the time has come.
Basically, the input from staff on that was that was something that the auditor's office needed to resolve themselves, and the last I heard was there was a question about who was going to send in the whatever updated forms and whatnot, and I asked the HR director to contact the state's attorney, and I'm not aware of how that conversation went or what the results were after that. But it did involve quite a few staff and quite a bit of time, just like usual. I think we've been forced to waste a lot of valuable time dealing with things that should have never happened. Thank you. Anything else for the good of Burleigh County? We are adjourned.